Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. I am your host, Apostate, and on today's live stream, we'll be taking callers from believers, namely Muslims and Christians. The purpose of the live stream is to have a conversation with the caller and understand from them what they believe and why they believe it to be true. So if that's something that might interest you as a caller, link to join is pinned to the live chat. If you'd like to join as a caller, now is your chance to do so before the queue fills up. So before we begin, I'd like to let you know and remind you that tomorrow I'm having a live stream with Genetically Modified Skeptic, Drew from Genetically Modified Skeptic. So I'm really excited about that live stream. Don't forget to tune in at around the same time tomorrow. We won't be taking calls, but of course, I'll be keeping an eye on the comments. And if you'd like to contribute, that is your way to join the discussion. So I'm really looking forward to it and looking forward to seeing where the conversation takes us. It's pretty loosely structured, so it should be interesting. And for today's live stream, like I said, if you'd like to join, link is pinned to the live chat. It seems like we already have a few people who would like to join. So without further ado, I am taking the first caller. The first caller is Wisdom. I'm adding them to the live stream now. Hey, Wisdom, how's it going? Can you hear me?
Hey, yes,
Yeah.
I can hear you.
I'm glad that you're here. Tell me a little bit about yourself and what you'd like to talk about today.
Okay, so we're
We're
already
on the
in,
stream.
right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so I come from hello,
Yes, I can hear
can
you.
you hear me? Okay, yeah, I
Mhm.
can hear you now. So I'm coming from a Christian background. I live in a European country, and I would like to share my experience about religion in general. I know your channel for about 6 months now, and I never had the opportunity, to join the live stream. And I'm really happy now that I had this opportunity because Wednesday is a really strange day. I have a 9 to 5 work, and then sometimes at the afternoons I am busy. So yeah, so now it's a good day.
I'm glad that it lined up, and I'm glad that we finally got a chance to talk on this live stream. Yeah, so I'm curious, where would you like to start in talking about your experience with religion?
So we could talk in general about my country and how it sees religion. So I am from Greece, for people who don't
Okay.
know it. I would describe Greece as a pretty uh, uh, secular country. Although I remember when I was a child, for example, at school, we had religious classes. We did things like prayer in the morning. We had the picture of Jesus in almost every classroom. So yeah, we had things like this. But in general, I can't say that we had religious things forced on us. We don't have a society pressure that you have to do this, you have to fast, you have to pray, or what other people say. Uh, I would say that most people here are like culturally religious and not very really religious. um
Do you see yourself as
so
culturally religious or really religious, the way that you put it?
me, are
Yes.
we talking about me?
Mm.
So now at this point of my life, I would describe myself as religious, yeah. But I have come through many different phases. As I said before, when I was a child, generally my parents are pretty secular and they never forced religion on me. I remember they taught me the basic things um, about Christianity and about who Jesus was, but they never forced anything on me. And I think that was pretty good. So when I was a child and I was in the primary school, I remember the concept of God. It was really, really difficult for me to understand. I remember I was like 6 or 7 years old, and I was asking who is God and why I would believe in Him. And I remember my parents saying, God is invisible. We can't see Him, we can't hear Him, but He is there, He's seeing us. And it was very strange because I was at that point I stopped believing in fairy tales. I think at the age of 6 or 7 is this age where you stop believing in fairy tales with witches, with magicians and all this. And I was like, are you expecting me to believe in an invisible being? It was very, very, very strange to me. So when I was in the primary school, I could say that I was like agnostic, atheist, and I think that's pretty strange for a young child because, yeah, I think most children follow the religion of their parents and the society and all of that.
So when did that change for you? When did you reconcile that fairy tales are not true, but religion is?
Well, when I became a teenager, and that started maybe at the age, yeah, of 12, 13, I was really curious about religions. Uh, I really learned the basic the basic things, about Christianity, but I didn't know why we are doing this, why we follow this, why we have this rule, what symbolizes, for example, lighting a candle and all of that. And I start searching, but also, as I said before, at school we have religious classes, but the way they teach us is not like learning by heart verses from the Bible. There were books illustrated with small texts, that were more appealing to young children. And specifically, I remember when I was, I think, 13 years old, we went deeper to the New Testament. And we learned more about the Gospels and the Jesus, and the life of Jesus and what happened. And I remember I was left speechless um, by the miracles he did, but his intentions to help the others, to help the poor, that he was a really caring person,
I
and
have a
and
question
all of
about
that.
that part.
Yeah, tell me, of
So
course.
when you were younger than that, you had realized that fairy tales were not true, and you had to question, how could there be an invisible creature, and how come God is true but fairy tales are not?
Mhm.
And then when you were older, around the age of 12 or 13, you started learning more about the religion in ways that were more appealing to you as a teenager. And in learning about his miracles, it sounds like you were in awe of the miracles. So what made you believe the miracles at the time as miracles rather than fairy tales?
I think it was a kind of need to believe in this. When I started searching about who wrote the Gospels, and I remember specifically at this specific lesson, uh, the teacher has told us about the Gospels, so the Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, that some of them were eyewitnesses. And I was like, so in my mind was the logic, okay, we have several eyewitnesses, they write down some things, and then the gospel goes, from mouth to mouth. And we also have the scriptures. But I think it was kind of a huge need to believe in something. I really cannot prove rationally if that was the true or not. But yeah, I would say it's a need. I don't know if you have
Yeah,
any question in this, and
I do.
then I can go ahead. Tell me.
Yeah, well, first of all, I appreciate that you noticed that, recognized that there was that need, and that you're sharing that with me today. And now I'm curious, why do you think did you have that need to believe?
So maybe because we have the need to believe that there is a next life, an afterlife, a world that is better than this one. And also, it's a kind, of feeling better for all the evil and the cruelty that exists in this world. So even when we see bad things happening, we are like, okay, there is the huge judge that one day will judge, everyone. So I think this maybe makes us to feel better.
I would like you to help me out here in understanding how to have that belief while also being aware that it came from a need to believe. I'm talking about in my case, for example, when I realized
Mhm.
that that could be a motivation for belief or for my own belief, it was difficult for me to then continue believing, knowing that I'm not believing based on being convinced of it being true, but rather based on wanting it to be true. And that affected my ability to believe in it. So, how could I retain that belief without affecting my ability to believe by being too self aware of the reason I believe?
Well, having come through many different phases, as I told, I realized at some time I was like, okay, now we know that this stuff sounds like fairy tales, maybe. Now we have science, we have technology, we're supposed to be rational people, so we maybe don't need this. But it's something I really cannot explain because the deeper I studied about this, the more I felt the need. I think it's because the version of God that it's appeared in Christianity. Because maybe I was searching for a kind of God that is caring, loving, and this need makes me to say, I want to believe. When I was thinking all of these things, I realized that I was not rational at all. But then I realized that the concept of God is a totally different concept. It's out of our imagination. So we can't really explain irrational things. To me, the concept of belief is a matter of faith. It's either you believe or not. I cannot really explain it further at this point.
Okay. Again, I appreciate you speaking to me so openly and so candidly. Like when you recognize that it's something you are not able to explain, you told me so. Let me phrase this differently. So, say I would like to be a believer in the same beliefs that you have, that you recognize stem from the need for comfort and meaning and justice in the world. What is the best method for me to gain that belief? And I know everyone's journey is different, but if you were to recommend one method, what would it be?
Well, I think that all starts from what thing do you have as a need in you? I mean, do you really feel the need to believe to a superior being? Do you feel the need to believe that there is someone who controls everything, that one day will give justice? Do you feel the need, for example, oh, I have also another point. Yeah,
Okay, let me answer
I,
that first.
I didn't mention. No, tell me. Yeah,
Yeah, I don't feel the need to believe that there's someone who controls the world
yeah.
and will give justice, but I do feel the need to address that injustice exists and it seems to be a bigger problem than I can ever affect. And I know there's rational ways to deal with that, like trying to affect positive change, but I see that need um, to appease some, well, maybe not appease is not the right word, but the need to offload that responsibility onto a bigger entity. I sort of feel that need, but not specifically that I need to believe that there's someone who controls the world, if that makes sense.
Mhm. Okay, yeah. Also, another point I didn't mention, and I think it's very important, is the fact that I was afraid of the death. Uh, when I was like 10 years old, I remember I one day I realized that one day, we will die, and what is this the end? And that's it. And you really cannot imagine the level, of how much terrified I was. And when I later learned about the concept of resurrection from the dead, I was really okay. Here we are. This is why this is for me. I think that concept of resurrection gave me a huge hope not to be afraid for temporary things in this life. and to be, more brave, more to give importance to things that are more idealistic and more permanent than temporary.
Okay. Yeah, I appreciate you explaining as much as you can why you believe. Um, I I don't think that I necessarily want to believe, but I want to know how to want to believe too. And if I do want to believe, how do I go from there to believing? So that's why I'm asking these questions. I want to know the benefits of belief that many people have been reporting. I would like to have those benefits too. So I would like to know, what does it take? How do you arrive at that point? And it seems like it's to some extent unexplainable, and it has to stem from a need to believe. Is that correct?
Mm. Can you make again the question?
Sure. It seems like belief for you, or the way that you see it, stems from the need to believe, and it cannot be explained how to attain that.
Yeah, somehow like that. But these were several points. Another point is that I consider Jesus to be a very good role model. So the whole religion, I think that helps me to be a better person. That doesn't mean that I wasn't a good person before, or that someone cannot be a good person with that religion. That means that I see some things better in my character through this religion.
Can you explain what that means? That you see some things better in your character, as in your character improves because of adhering to that
Yeah,
religion?
yeah.
If you were to
So,
translate these improvements to someone who's not in the religion, are you able to do so?
yeah, I think so. For example, I understand better the concept of forgiveness. I remember before I wasn't very able to forgive people and situations. I remember even for the slightest thing that someone may do, I was angry for about 1 week or 1 month. Now I can see through that what are the pros of forgiveness? First of all, to ourselves and then to others, because forgiveness is something that helps and benefits us, first of all, to feel an inner peace. It's a really big deal not to feel angry, because as a person I really have angry issues sometimes. So this point uh, really helped me.
I'm glad to hear that your belief has helped you. Um, I suppose what I would want to know is how to popularize the good aspects of having belief, or the good aspects that come with having that specific belief. How can we popularize those without tying them to the belief? Do you think there's a way to do that?
Popularize, like how to make a better marketing for Christianity, something like that.
Not necessarily. It's better marketing for these values that you see as good values,
Yeah.
without tying them to religion specifically. So, for example, let me phrase it this way. I'm sure that you care about people's salvation, but if I were to offer you two situations, either people can obtain the same benefits from belief as you have, like, for example, being more forgiving. People can obtain those values without joining Christianity, but these values will become more common in society. Or the other scenario is the world that we are living in now. I'm sure that you would probably want people to have these values whether or not they join Christianity, right?
Yeah, yeah, right. But I think that these values guide you to the salvation. That means, according to the teachings of the gospel, someone who has these values is able to feel the grace of God and be able to approach Him and to end up in salvation. I don't know. I think you know that in Christianity we have the concept of saints, right? You know that
Concept of what? Sorry?
saint, saint people.
Send?
Yeah, the saints.
No, I'm not sure what you're describing. Can you
Maybe
explain it a little bit more?
I don't pronounce it well. Maybe maybe it's a pronunciation. For example, uh, Saint Marina,
Oh,
Saint
saints. Yeah,
Peter,
yes.
Saint. Yeah, yeah. The
Yeah, saints.
pronunciation, as I told, it's a problem
No worries.
sometimes. Yeah, yeah. Okay. So
Saints,
you
yes.
know this concept.
Hmm.
So, do you know what exactly these people were and what they did?
No, but I'm afraid it's getting a little bit far from the question that I was asking. What I meant to ask, and let me rephrase myself if I can. If there was a way to give people the same values that you gain from your belief, would you want people to have that, even if they don't become Christian because of it, but they have those values?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, sure, sure. But as I answered you, I think that having these values maybe at some time can guide you to salvation. That doesn't mean that you automatically become a Christian by having these values, but
Hmm.
maybe by having these values, you will be able to feel the grace of God and maybe after life to be saved. This is what I answered. And I mentioned that saints because most of them they were people who were able to feel or see God when they were still alive.
So my question here would be, if if that is the case, if the if you can share your values with people without Christianity, and somehow that might make them more likely to be saved or more likely to be Christian, what is the method that you can share your values without tying them to Christianity?
What do you mean that exactly?
So you gave the example of forgiveness and how
Mhm,
Christianity taught you
mhm,
forgiveness, and used
mhm.
to be more of a revenge or vengeful person. So how can you teach someone that value without necessarily tying it to religion?
Okay, so I would say that as a person, sometimes I am aggressive, I have anger issues, and that really made me suffer. I don't know if you have been ever angry, but I think it also has some physical symptoms when you're angry about something. Uh, I felt like a pain in the chest, and it's really horrifying because you are thinking of the bad thing the other did to you. You're thinking of it all day and all night. But when you try to, I cannot find the word, but when you try to uh, keep up with it. I don't know if I said correctly, but if you try to leave it back, I think it's better for your mental health. This is what helped me a lot.
Hmm. Well, I want to continue the conversation, but I have to get to the next caller soon.
Mhm.
So I'll wrap it up by saying what I'm thinking of is if theists or believers find ways to to communicate these values and these benefits of belief to non-believers without necessarily tying it to the religion, then would have two advantages. The first is that it spreads these good values as you see them in society.
Mhm.
And the second advantage for you as a Christian would be it makes those people more likely to become Christian if you believe that that is the case. Um, so I think it would be
Yes,
very
I'm with you.
productive if theists can find ways to spread good morality or good values or good techniques to live life without necessarily
Mhm.
making it just about the religion.
I agree. Yeah, yeah. I think that we should find more ways to spread our morals. Because maybe most people, when listen about a specific religion, they're thinking maybe of rituals, and praying and all of that, and maybe they ignore the good thing and the morals that religion have. Okay, good. Anyway, I really enjoyed this conversation with you, and I hope I will be able, yeah, to call again
Thank you. Yeah, I hope so
and
too.
say more.
Yeah.
Thank you, thank you. Bye
Have a
bye.
great rest of your day. Bye bye.
Yeah, you too.
All right. Thanks to the caller for joining. Thanks, Wisdom. Um, and to be clear, I didn't challenge the caller on whether religion does give you better values. I'm just saying if the caller or other believers believe that religion does give better values, we could try advertising those values and trying to spread them in society without tying them to religion. And if they're genuinely good values, then perhaps they will improve society without necessarily making it a more religious society. And that way everybody benefits. Um, yeah. And we've got two more callers, I believe, in queue. And if you'd like to join, now is close to your last chance. Link is pinned to the live chat if you would like to be one of the callers. And I want to give a shout out to Non-Crazy Cat Lady. I appreciate the super chat comment. She says, "You are amazing. Thank you all for the hard work you do." I really appreciate it. And same to Rabbit Hold. Thank you so much for the super chat. You guys have no idea how um, amazing this generosity is. I mean, a live stream would go on for multiple hours, and I'd get all the ad revenue that I get barely even compares to like a few super chats here and there. So thank you all. It really helps me run this channel. Okay, so I am taking the next caller. I believe we've spoken on the channel before, but when they join, perhaps they can remind me of what exactly we spoke about. So ALK, I hope you're ready because I'm adding you to the live stream now. Hey ALK, how's it going?
Oh, hey, what's up?
How's it going?
Good, good. How you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. I know that we've spoken before, but can you please remind me what we spoke about last time?
Yeah, so last time I called, I had kind of spoke about theism versus atheism, and I kind of presented this argument, and we had just kind of talked about that a little bit.
Okay. And you mentioned that you wanted to expand on some of what we talked about last time.
Yeah, well, real quick, I just wanted to make a correction to what I said last time. I'm sure you have some regular viewers that watch all your episodes, so I guess I wanted to make one correction to what I said last time regarding my argument. Um,
Okay.
Yeah, so basically last time my argument was it started off along the lines of either the universe has always existed or it went from a state of non-existence to existence. And then I said it cannot have always existed because if it always existed, that is a claim of an infinite regress, meaning you're saying the universe is infinitely old. However, that's actually not true because we could say the universe has always existed for a finite amount of time. Say like it's 14 billion years old. Does that make sense? Um,
I mean, always and assuming that existence started 14 billion years ago.
yeah. So what I'm saying is my previous argument was kind of predicated on you can't say that the universe has always existed because that is to say that the universe is infinitely old. However, now I realize that's not true because you could say the universe has always existed and then you could give it a finite age and say it's existed for this long because that's when time started 14 billion years ago or something. I'm sorry, I'm kind of
Mhm.
jumping into the middle of my argument of last time somewhat, but I just wanted to throw it out there. I feel like I said something that's incorrect, so I just wanted to kind of throw that out there. Um,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
okay. I'm glad that you're
hmm
addressing something that you said before. You think that you could have phrased it differently. But yeah, like I said, I usually pay very little attention to discussions about whether or not God is necessary or God exists as a concept. Um, so yeah, I'm curious about today's discussion. Would you want to talk about why you believe in Islam?
Yeah, sure. I feel like we've kind of touched on this a little bit before. Um, but yeah, I'll kind of get into that. Maybe I'll just get into a little bit of my past and my relationship with Islam, I guess you could say.
Sure.
Um, so when I was younger, I've always been Muslim. I've been raised Muslim. Um, I've never necessarily rejected my religion. However, I would say when I was younger, I never really took it seriously either. Like I did believe it and I was Muslim, but I didn't necessarily follow anything about it, you know. When I was in high school, like I was trying to party and talk to girls and stuff like that. I had like religion was not really on my mind, you could say. And then I would say in my early 20s, I guess I started to question hey, like is my religion maybe incorrect? Even though I wasn't necessarily religious, I think I was surrounded by much more Muslim friends. And so that just made me think about this stuff a little bit more. And through that, I would say very early in that journey of mine, I kind of came to a realization that specific religions are not necessarily the be all end all. And so I guess you could say to some degree, I lost interest in the fact of whether I followed the right religion versus I got more interested in the idea of God and theism versus atheism. Um, so yeah, I mean, why do I believe in Islam? I guess, it's mostly like I was born into it. I don't see any reason to leave it. For me, there's nothing to make me want to leave it. Um, I guess early in my journey when I started questioning my religion, um, and reading criticisms about my religion, which actually nowadays are very common. Everyone's heard them all at this time. But back then in 2005, 2006, this stuff wasn't very common on the internet. It was actually quite obscure. Um, but in going through that process, I guess I felt like a lot of people had criticisms, which to me did not seem to really hold up. And so I guess the way I took it was it did maybe somewhat bring me closer to my religion because, in my mind, I thought like, well, there's people out there. I guess I came across certain anti-Muslim website at that time, which was a not a common thing, but I felt to myself like, hey, this guy is out there criticizing Islam, and he's kind of what it seems to be is he seems to have dedicated his life to this. Yet none of his criticisms necessarily, at least the way I see him, really seem to hold up. So I guess it made me start feeling like, hey, maybe there is something to this religion that's, I guess you could say, special. But ultimately, I guess that could be said about any religion. So it's not anything special or specific to Islam.
So, in your pursuit of reading about these criticisms, it's
Mhm.
it seems like most of them, or you said a lot of people out there had criticisms that didn't hold up, and that made you feel closer to your religion when you came across a criticism that did not hold up. Have you come across any criticisms that did hold up?
Criticisms that did hold up. Well, there's criticisms like, for example, we could look at the Muslim world and there's lots of problems. So I mean, there's legit criticisms to be made, but um, I don't know if that's more. I guess more of the criticisms that I guess that I saw as legit had to do more with just people. It didn't seem to be a Islam specific type of thing.
I don't think
Um,
those would make more legitimate criticisms about Islam. So, are you saying
mhm.
you didn't come across any legitimate criticisms of Islam that held up?
I guess at that point in time, not really.
So
I can't really
basically,
think of any.
it's not that like many of the criticisms that you came across didn't hold up. It's none of the criticisms that you came across held up.
Yeah, like I only kind of came across a few, and then, like I said, I think somewhat early in this journey, I came to the realization that religions are all kind of very similar, and so I stopped. I guess I stopped focusing on the religion itself as much.
So you see that it
Hmm.
could have been very conceivable that if you started from Christianity, you'd go through that process and then also focus on the existence of God rather than whether or not Christianity is true.
Yeah, when I think to myself, if I was born into a different religion, what would I think? I feel like I would think kind of the same thing, and I would assume I would probably stick with whatever religion I was born with, but I'm not really sure. But
Well, do
that's
you see
kind
that
of what
as
I think.
like that's one I think is a one legitimate criticism of Islam, and not just Islam exclusively, but I'm just going to focus on it for a second. Um, that there's this expectation that you should leave your belief system and find the one and only truth of Islam, when the methodology of finding Islam is the same as the methodology that keeps people in their own faith. So it seems like someone might or will go to hell forever for being a polytheist who grew up in polytheism and sees it as it just kind of makes sense and none of the criticisms hold up and they remain in it. Don't you see that as a flaw of Islam, that it fails to recognize how humans form their beliefs?
I mean, how's that a flaw of Islam? I guess I don't necessarily understand. So the fact that there are people that will suffer in the afterlife based on not following Islam.
Not just that, but you just recognized right now that, you know, if you were a Christian, you could possibly go through the same journey and remain a Christian. So would you have deserved the torture of hellfire because of that process, even though it's the same exact process as you took as a Muslim?
No, so if I was a Christian, then I would be a Christian, and yeah, like what do you mean? I would just get judged as however I live my life, and that's it. Like,
But I mean, it's not just Christianity, but whatever religion, but I'm using Christianity as a placeholder. But say it's a non-Abrahamic
hey,
religion.
let's say I was a Hindu, and
Sure.
you know, I believe in Hinduism, and okay, then that's my religion. So what about it? Like,
I'm saying
I
if you
guess.
if you were a Hindu and you followed the same steps that you did as a Muslim, and you probably
Yeah.
remained in, you know, your own belief, what makes you more entitled to hell, or what makes you right now, ALK as a Muslim, more entitled to heaven than someone who followed the same process and remained in their faith?
I don't think anything entitles me. It just depends on my actions, right?
I mean, if you take a
I don't see
similar
how I'm
actions,
entitled.
similar lives, it's just that
Yeah.
you happen to be born a Muslim and remain a Muslim, and the other person happened to be born a polytheist and remained a polytheist. It's even if you don't
Well,
feel entitled, I'm saying you have a better shot at heaven and avoiding hell. Is that not an unfairness in the way that religion operates?
it doesn't necessarily seem that way. I do want to make one distinction between polytheism and monotheism. Um, I do think polytheism and atheism are very different than monotheism. I
Does
guess when I
the
refer to myself,
distinction matter in this scenario?
well, I guess a polytheist and a monotheist just don't believe in God. But in this scenario, as far as what happens to them in the afterlife, I don't think I can't really say that because I don't know. Like, I'm a Muslim, but I can't say I'm going to heaven. Like, I have no idea, right? I don't know.
I've heard that a lot though, but it's always kind of a cop out from the conversation. It's not that I'm saying you specifically are going to heaven, but you as a Muslim,
Yeah.
you have a better shot at attempting to go to heaven and avoid hell than someone who doesn't believe in God the same way that you do. Like they are destined for hell. That's almost known as a fact. Even if you can't specifically say this person's going to hell, we get that the category is doomed for hell. Don't you see that as an inherent flaw that you could follow the same exact steps in your journey of faith and end up in hell
Mhm.
just because you started in a different point?
I guess I don't necessarily agree with that. You seem to basically be implying like if you're not Muslim, you don't go to heaven, and if you're Muslim, you do. But
Not
I don't.
necessarily.
I guess.
No, that's
Mhm.
I don't want to reduce it to just that because that's kind of
Yeah.
almost a red herring of what the conversation is actually about. If you're not a Muslim,
Mhm.
you have a much lower chance of going to heaven. Like, yeah, sure, there are exceptions and all that kind of stuff, but by default, a Muslim gets a shot at heaven, a shot at avoiding hell. A kafir is going to hell for disbelieving.
Okay, so yeah, I guess me being a Muslim and the fact that I follow the Quran, I feel like I have a much better form of guidance, so it should give me a better shot at heaven. Yeah, I I agree. But
I
I
think
mean, I
that's
don't. That's just
no,
mhm.
that's kind of
I mean
missing the
that.
point.
Yeah.
Here's what I'm trying to explain. The way that you
Uh-huh.
described your journey of faith, right? The way that you had not even doubts, that you had questions and you looked up all the criticisms and you found that none of them held up, and you remained on the faith that you're in and you focused more on whether or not God exists. Um, if you had followed these same exact steps, starting from the starting point of a Hindu or some other religion, and likely remained in
Yeah.
your own faith, you would
Yeah.
be likely going to hell. But here, as a Muslim, you have a shot at
I
being judged.
no, I mean, let's say I was a Hindu, but I live my life in accordance with, my life is filled with like when I'm judged on the day of judgment, I have sins and I have deeds, right? That's what I'm going to be judged on, right?
No, but
So
it's not just the sins and the deeds. If you're a polytheist or if you don't believe in Allah, you go to hell. Like there's no.
yeah, if you're polytheist or atheist, yeah, there's a distinction to be made there. However, again, I know in Islam we're taught about hypocrites, which is to say people can say one thing and be another thing. So
Again,
taking
I
this
feel
into
like that's kind of a tangent here to talk about hypocrites.
Okay.
Like we're talking about the average case of a believer, your journey. You would have had the same exact journey as a believer of another religion and remained in it, but somehow you found the right answer using that methodology and they didn't. So isn't it unfair that you both followed the same steps, but one of you dies a Muslim with a better shot at heaven and avoiding hell, and the other is de facto going to hell because of their belief?
I guess that's not how I understand Islam. Let's say I was a Hindu right now. Like, so for example, if like we have zakat, right? You give charity. That's kind of like a deed. Now, if I'm a non-Muslim and if I give charity, that's a deed. Like I get my reward for that. Like, why is it just because I'm a different religion I won't get? I don't necessarily understand where you're at. Or I guess
mean,
you
can
seem to
can
be
a
making a
Hindu go
difference.
to go? No, I think it's. I don't know if it's intentional or not, but you're missing the most central part of whether or not you're going to heaven is whether or not you believe in Allah. And let's not talk about examples where someone never heard of the message and all that kind of stuff. No, I'm talking about a person who's heard about their religion but believes in something else. They're going to hell.
Yeah.
Most likely they're going to hell. So it
So
doesn't
let's
matter
yeah.
what good deeds they did.
I guess that's like something new that I've heard. Like I've never heard anyone say that you're gonna go to hell, like if you don't convert to Islam. I've never. I guess I've always been the way my religion was taught to me was that like we're all judged based on our sins and our deeds. Being a Muslim doesn't somehow save you, and not being a Muslim doesn't somehow damn you. Like it's much deeper than that.
I think you might be missing a big chunk of belief here. I'm not sure how you weren't taught about that part, but I mean, even if you just open up the Quran, like do you not see that in the Quran it keeps promising punishment for polytheists and disbelievers? Is that not clear?
Yeah. Yeah.
So how did you miss that someone who doesn't believe in Islam is promised hell?
No, I mean, so there is no, but even people like I'm a Muslim, I'm definitely gonna go to hell for a while. I'm pretty sure about
That's
that.
besides the
Like
point. Like, that's really besides the point. Because I honestly I get tired of always the tangent of, well, we don't know which Muslims are going to heaven or which ones are going to get a bit of punishment. At the end of the day, as a Muslim, you have a shot at heaven, and some even believe that you'll never be in hell forever if you die a Muslim. But that's aside from the point. If you're not a Muslim, you are destined for hell because of your disbelief, no matter what good deeds you did. And
I've never heard it.
How do you interpret the verses in the Quran about polytheists going to hell and disbelievers going to hell? Or do you interpret it as because they didn't get enough points, because they didn't do enough good deeds?
Yeah, well, I think polytheists and disbelievers, their actions, people's actions reflect their belief. And so, yeah, like I feel like the way the Quran describes believers versus disbelievers, a lot of the actions of like right now we see an ethnic cleansing going on in the Middle East. I would expect, I don't know what religion any of these people claim, but even if they claim Islam, like I would expect whoever is doing something like that, like these are acts of like disbelievers like that.
I mean,
I'm just saying, I don't know.
We started this conversation by you mentioning that some valid criticism could be the way that Muslims behave. It's a bit kind of distracting here. So people are committing atrocities at the moment. What does that really have to do with the point of the discussion here, which is, like, are you basically saying that God said disbelievers go to hell, and as we can see, disbelievers are committing genocide, therefore it makes sense? It's obviously not just about people who commit genocide.
No, so God is giving us a message, right? Through the Quran, God is speaking to me. He's telling me, like, we make this distinction between believers, disbelievers. Now he's telling me, like, as a believer, what happens. This is the result. As a disbeliever, this is what the result. So God's telling this to me, and that's like, if that's accurate, then that's good information for me to know. I guess I'm not. I guess I never really came across this idea that the thing is, as a disbeliever, like, I can't say who's it. Even if somebody says that they're a disbeliever, like, I don't know if that's how God will judge them. So what somebody says outwardly doesn't that's no reason for me to tell them where they're going in the afterlife. I don't know. Because that's kind of why I brought up hypocrites, right? To establish this idea that, like, we could say one thing, but who's to say that's what it is?
I mean, this feels like almost offloading the moral responsibility of examining the issue by saying, well, it's murky anyway. I don't know who's a disbeliever, so I don't have to think about this. But at least, I can't dictate how you believe in Islam, but I can tell you, when I was a Muslim, and the most easily common, obvious, literal, unmistakable interpretation is that if you're a Muslim, at least you have a shot of going to heaven and avoiding hell. Like, yeah, you still have deeds, there are still hypocrites, all that kind of stuff. But it was clear as day that God, or the author of the Quran, spends a lot of time just raving about how bad disbelievers and polytheists are, and they'll see on the day of judgment they're going to be tortured and all that kind of stuff. So it doesn't take that much deduction. It's not a stretch, really, to say that if you die a disbeliever, you are more likely to go to hell. And that seemed to be, I mean, the way that you understand that you are you are a Muslim to a huge extent because you were born into it, despite all of your thoughts and critical thoughts and research. It's mostly because you were born into it. Don't you see that inherently someone could be born somewhere else, and inherently they're more likely to go to hell, and they are more likely to die a disbeliever, and that's still somehow fair to you?
I mean, anyone could be more likely for like, some people are born in a rich situation versus a poverty situation. Like,
No, we're just
we're all
focusing on
born.
how systemically it's tied to what religion you were born into.
Mhm. Yeah, I guess because you're bringing up, like, you have a better chance versus a worse chance. I mean, I don't know. Or should we all have been born in the same body then? Like, I don't. Of course, we all have different. We're all born in different situations. Like, I don't see how that's. I guess I don't necessarily understand why is there a criticism to be made there. Like, yes, some of us are born into this religion, some are born into that religion, but we all
I mean,
have our faculties. We
here's
move through
the
life, and
criticism.
yeah.
Based on what you've done, I don't know how you are as a person, but I'll just say, I'm assuming you're a good person, and I'm assuming that everything you relate to me about your journey with faith is true. If someone were to follow a similar path, just starting from a different point of belief, not as a Muslim, I am telling you, based on what I know about Islam, based on all the repetition of all the torture they are promised, Allah says that the deeds don't really matter as much as your faith. If you don't have that faith in Islam, you are going to hell. So the unfair part to me seems like you have done actions and research and a certain path, and if someone has taken the same exact path just with a different starting point that they didn't pick, they'd go to hell. That's the unfair part here.
So let me ask you something, maybe to get a better understanding. You see, like, my take on my religion, it's very much like, hey, I was born into it, and that's cool. So does that mean I lack faith in Islam? Like, how would Allah look at someone like me? Do I lack faith since I don't necessarily subscribe to that outlook that you mentioned?
I think it depends on
I'm
how you view Allah. I mean, do you think that you have the kind of strong faith that is that God promises a lot of reward for?
I don't know. I have no idea. I don't even, you know, the afterlife is such a obscure kind of concept. I don't necessarily dwell on it like that because it's just too different of anything I really understand or know. Um, yeah, I'm sorry. What did you ask me right now?
So I was asking you, do you think that you have the kind of faith that
Mhm.
God promises to reward in the afterlife because you believe in God? Or do you
Oh,
think that you happened into the faith and you don't?
I
Yeah.
I hope I do. I mean, certainly I hope I do. I don't know. I have no idea. Um, you know, I guess when the time is to find out, I'll find out at that time. I really don't know as of yet.
Okay. Well, let me ask you, do you have anything to ask me that you would like to, yeah, ask me and I'll answer?
Um, okay. I guess maybe kind of switching topics here. I don't know if this is something I necessarily want to ask you, but I notice on your channel there's a strong correlation between maybe people being gay and then kind of looking at Islam in a negative light. Um, and I guess I'm just I don't know, maybe you could explain that to me a little bit more. Um, so me, I don't know how I come across, but I'm gay and I'm Muslim. I don't necessarily I'm not picking up on what am I supposed to be hating about myself or my religion? Like why is that such a common thing? I don't
So
necessarily understand it. Mhm.
I haven't noticed a huge correlation. I have noticed that there are gay people who don't believe or mention that that was a factor in how they viewed themselves and how they viewed their religion. Um,
Mhm.
so it would be more accurate to talk to one of those people, but I can try to relay what they had said.
Mhm.
Um, and I think it also ties into how you view yourself as a gay Muslim. Do you think that you are able to find a partner as a Muslim?
Like a male, like a female, what do you mean? Like
I mean, you say that you are gay, so you're attracted to males. Are you
yeah.
able to have a partner as a male, a gay male?
Yeah, sure. What do you mean? Yeah, I mean, I live in the US, so I mean, over here, it's not really an issue.
No, I mean as a Muslim. Like aside from what the U.S. allows you to do, um,
Mhm.
can you be a practicing Muslim and have a gay spouse?
I don't know what you mean by spouse, but like, sure, I could be a Muslim and I could sin. I do a lot of
But
that's
that's what I'm
my
saying. I'm
sin,
not
but
saying are you able to sin. Are you able to have a
uh,
partner the same way a straight Muslim would have a partner?
no, no, not like no. You mean like being open, and openly accepted, and just no,
Hmm.
I obviously not.
So how do you view your um, do you want companionship in this life?
Yeah, yeah, of course.
But you're not allowed to get it as a Muslim.
I mean, I could, and
No, I'm not saying if
that's
you're able to sin or not. I'm saying as a Muslim, doing things within the bounds of religion, you're not allowed to.
and no, no, not within the bounds of religion. No.
And how did you process that? How do you feel about it?
Well, I don't know. I guess we just grew up like that, like, um, and I like girls a lot too. And in high school, we grew up talking to girls and drinking alcohol and smoking weed, and we just did it. But we understood these are sins, but I guess we never we never felt like, oh, because I do it, it shouldn't be a sin. Like it is what it is, you know. Like,
No, that's not what I'm asking here. Um,
mm,
and I promise it'll all tie to your question about why some people who are gay then leave the religion. Um,
mhm.
do you think that so you understand it to be a sin if you wanted to have a male partner, but you are attracted to males and possibly to females as well? Um,
Mhm.
I don't know if that would make you possibly bisexual. I don't know, but that's not really as relevant. So if you wanted to have a partner for life, the halal way,
Mhm.
are you going to find a female to marry?
Yeah. Hmm. Well,
And
that's more.
hmm,
I would say that would be more to do with wanting to have a family. I guess if it's just about the companionship, I guess it could go either way.
so if you
But
just wanted if you don't want kids, for example, and you just wanted the companionship, you
yeah.
might marry a woman just because you're not allowed to marry a man.
Uh, no, like that. That's not necessarily why. I guess I could have a male partner. I don't. That could happen too.
But I mean, not
But not.
halal.
But that wouldn't be legit. Like according to our religion, of course, that's not legit. Like that's not kosher. But that's. I guess that's my decision to make. Right.
Well, okay. Let me then cut to the chase about how why some people are disillusioned by
Yeah.
religion when they get to that point. Say someone is not bisexual; they're only attracted to their gender. So, say you are
Yeah.
only attracted to men. Some people realize, living through that experience, that there's no way to be a gay Muslim and live a happy life unless you confine yourself to dying alone without a partner, or you marry someone of the opposite gender just to go with what religion says or what society expects, or to just do your part or whatever it may be. um, or like, and maybe you're not even open to them about that side of who you are. And some people see it as unfair. It doesn't make any sense that they were born with that, and there's nothing inherently immoral with it, yet they're banished to a life of living alone, not having that companionship, and feeling bad about themselves because they feel like they shouldn't have that attraction because they see it as a sin. And that's when they realize there's nothing fundamentally wrong with being gay. And if religion is built on, or if religion dictates it to be wrong without explaining why or without actually making a good case for why, they start to question, what else in religion have I learned that I haven't questioned before that is false? Like, here's one area of my life that I lived through, as if someone is a gay person, they might be thinking that. I lived through this. I realized through experience that there's nothing wrong with me or immoral about me. So what else was Islam wrong about?
Yeah, I guess maybe the difference is I do see it as something inherently wrong. Um, so I guess I don't necessarily question it like that because I don't have that. I do feel like something is inherently wrong with it.
And why do
Mm.
you think you feel that way?
Um, it's tough to explain, but I watch a lot of nature shows. I'm very interested in nature, so I watch a lot of these type of programs and stuff. And there's just something that you kind of understand in life. There's this kind of universal language that all of life speaks. And so there's just, obviously like me being the way I am, I'm kind of out of tune with that language. Um,
I mean, you say that you
you
watch nature documentaries. Um,
Mhm.
there's a lot of unnatural stuff that we do as humans, even from the days of the Prophet. That's not really something that animals do. If you want to define nature as what animals do, um, but also going by that logic, there are gay animals. So, what is that universal language that you are not tuned into?
So there's this kind of like it's this. So everything that's living has this inherent need to survive. And in order to survive, we all have two appetites. We have one appetite, which is to feed ourselves, right? Like food. I have to feed myself. If I don't, I will literally die. And then we have another appetite, which is to procreate. And again, it's without this appetite, the species will literally die. And so obviously, like there's something about me that is a little off from that. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, I don't think anything specifically bad of myself or anything, but I mean, I definitely I don't have this kind of idea in my mind that, oh, it's okay and we're all the same and everything's cool. Like, no, I understand everything has positive and negative impacts on us as individuals or us as a society. And, that's just the reality of life. So I understand some of these impacts that this could have and why maybe we would fear it. I would say another way that I view it is, evolution. If you kind of look at how evolution works, it kind of would
Wait,
make
let me
sense
pause you
why.
there for a second. We've spit on evolution's grave at this point. Like, we're not doing
Mhm.
evolution anymore. We're not waiting around for natural selection to kill off our weak and breed the strong. And that's not how it works. And that's not how it's worked for a long time. Because we can't escape the mechanisms of evolution, of course, but we've circumvented them in many ways. And through a lot of things that even extend to the times of the prophet, we're way past our, chimp primate forms, or cousins, if you want to see it that way. It's it's not just that we have to adhere by whatever an animal would do naked in the jungle. Like, we're way past that point. We have vaccines, we have healthcare, we have inventions that have led to an explosion in our population that has surpassed what evolution alone would have done. So we're not playing by these rules anymore. So I don't see how looking back at evolution to guide us in how to behave is relevant now.
Well, I guess it would make sense why the human psyche over time would perhaps develop a kind of, I guess you could say, like a homophobic kind of aspect to it. But you're right, maybe that doesn't necessarily apply to today, but it's what I mean to say is, like, there's a lot of reasons for me to kind of, I guess, why I think what I think, you could say. Like, it's just, it makes sense on a lot of levels, like why that would not be beneficial.
Can you see that it makes sense on a lot of levels because of the beliefs that you hear about around you? Not because it actually inherently makes sense on a lot of levels?
Oh, I don't know, because regarding my beliefs, I don't know if that's why I have think this stuff. I really don't know. I can't say, but as far as what I used to consciously think, like, I don't think it was my religion that, I grew up also in a little bit of an earlier time in the 90s. Everybody was homophobic. That was just normal, like, um, maybe I didn't
No,
care to
I didn't
reconcile some.
specifically specify that it's because of religion. I'm saying because of beliefs that have been normal around you.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, like I definitely grew up in that, so it's hard for me to say what exact impact that had on my thinking.
So, to answer your question, can you understand
Mhm.
why someone who sees that there's nothing inherently wrong with being gay would then be disillusioned about religion because they can't reconcile that fact of life that they are gay and they're not wrong or broken for it with religion's claim that that is something sinful and shameful? So they start to look into it, or at least that's a catalyst for them leaving the religion. Can you see how that progression can happen for a gay person?
Yeah, I guess I could see how that progression could happen, but it would seem like so I guess it would seem like the end goal there is about just maybe wanting to feel better about yourself, or maybe wanting to feel more comfortable with yourself or something.
It could also be seen as a way to reconcile reality with how you feel, which is, I mean, a lot of religion is kind of, a lot of belief in religion is built on the same principles, basically, is either to comfort oneself or to reconcile reality with a narrative or with a belief. It could be that gay people who leave religion, that's the first thing that they notice, is the first falsehood in religion. Religion claims that there's something wrong with being gay, but I have lived it and I don't see anything wrong with being gay. So what else is false in religion? Like, it's not necessarily about how do I find a worldview that fits my reality
Mm.
better, but that also could be one aspect of it. But I wouldn't dismiss it as someone leaving religion because they are gay. I mean, some people do, but it's often seen as a first domino that falls in the sequence, if that makes sense.
So then let me ask you this, like, okay, let's kind of take that same thinking and logic. Let's apply it to someone. So let's say drinking alcohol, it's haram in Islam, right? And then somebody like they really like drinking. I've never like noticed this phenomena with drinking where it's like people then start to be like, well, I like drinking and Islam says drinking's bad. So now I start questioning everything about people just seem to be like, yeah, like, there's some stuff wrong with it, but like
I mean,
we
to
still do
fix
it.
your analogy, it would be if someone needed to drink alcohol to feel the way that you feel when you drink water, not just that someone likes to drink on the side. Like, people being gay is not just a vice that they have. Like, unfortunately, it seems like you might see it that way, that it's some kind of sin or vice that you can resist or you can give into temptation. But a lot of people feel like it's the same way that I would feel about my attraction to a woman, for example.
Yeah, I don't know how I view, I can't say. I mean, everyone has their own different kind of experience and journey. So, um,
So I'm curious
yeah, I guess.
if it's not too
Yeah.
personal, um, do you think that you will someday, like, first of all, are you attracted to women as well, or just men?
Yeah, I'm attracted to women. Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so you don't see it as a dead end that you don't um, date a man or have partnership with a man, and it's not a
No,
dead
but
end in terms of finding companionship or having a family.
uh, I'm sorry, I didn't understand. You said I what? Don't see it as a dead end?
Yeah, like the fact that you cannot be with a man is not a dead end for you in terms of finding companionship or having a family.
Oh, I mean, in some ways it is, like I told you, I'm gay, so of course there's certain things that I would have to be missing out on then if I don't do that. I
But
guess that's,
it's
it's
not a
my,
death sentence for you having a partner if you're also attracted to women.
no, but I'm not straight. It's a, I guess not though. Yeah, I don't view it as a death sentence for me though. No, I definitely don't. But definitely there will be aspects of my life that will be, you could say, empty or unfulfilled, or something of that something of that nature.
And you think that God created you gay and wants you to not fulfill those aspects of your life because of what?
Well, that's kind of up. I guess I could, like, but are you saying why is it spoken against in Islam? You mean from that perspective?
No, the way that you understand it. Why do you
Yeah.
think God wants you to leave those parts of your life empty?
Oh, because the effect, the impact it has on society to be open with these things in the long term far outweighs, you could say, my personal happiness or any individual's personal happiness. At
So
least that's how I see it. At least living in America, that's how I see. That's that's what seems to be a pretty clear cut
um,
understanding of that. Yeah.
I would disagree on that, but I will continue your. I'll give you an analogy to maybe understand how you view it. So, if there was some kind of genetic disease that, if you have that disease, say you have purple spots on your body, right, on your face or something like that, and
Yeah.
knowing that if you have those purple spots, if you get married and have children, then the next generation will have a worse genetic disease. So you would think people with purple spots should not procreate because it would be worse for society going forward, and you would just happen to be born with purple spots. Is that kind of how you view being gay?
I kind of missed some of your analogy. So okay, so you're saying the thing with, oh, because it's worse for society. I don't.
Like you do you see it as some things you were born with, but it's your duty
Yeah.
to keep society from its harms by not acting on it.
Yeah, obvious, of course. Yeah. I mean, every aggressive male has to follow that to some degree, right? Like, or else it'd be chaos.
No, I don't see the how it's analogous with aggressive males.
So you're saying, do we have to kind of repress particular
I mean,
um
do you see it the same as an
impulses?
aggressive male who would harass people? Being gay is the same as
Do I
that
see
or
where?
analogous to that?
Well, I guess in this analogy, it is in the sense of you saying that people have to act in a certain way for the good of society. Like, yeah, that's applied on many levels.
So you view it similar to how if God created you an aggressive male, you hold yourself back
Mhm.
from being an aggressive male or a harassing male in the same way you hold yourself back from having a consensual relationship with a man.
Yeah, openly, I guess. Yeah.
And well, before I get to the next caller, I'm curious to know, like, what are some of the examples of this kind of this harm that will befall society if people are openly gay?
Well, because sexuality is a very complex thing. So when you start introducing young minds to this thing, it sparks a lot of curiosity. And, you know, there's a lot of negative associated with being too kind of sexually open. And one of those main negative things is the family unit is affected very much by that. And what I mean by that is, for example, in the US, almost 50% of kids don't grow up with a mother and a father together. I would say almost 50%. It might even be more than
Right?
that.
How
I
do
don't
you
know how
tie
much it
that
is.
with homosexuality acceptance? Especially that, I
Well,
mean, you
there's
described, for
a
example, in the
overall.
90s, everyone was homophobic. That's the generation that raised the kids that you're now referring to as growing up without both parents. So it's not really because people were more accepting of gay people, and now we have more orphans or more kids without both sets of parents.
Yeah, it's not like this just has to do with homosexuality and that leads down this, but it's just one of numerous things. Like, for example, in the US, so we have this LGBT movement in the US, and it kind of makes sense in the US to some degree because for decades we've had, women in bikinis everywhere, giant billboards of half naked women selling you this, selling you that. So it makes sense in this society why, if we're so sexually open, then why is it that we're so open but then one group has to be repressed? It makes sense over here. I guess other places, it seems like there seems to just be a general strictness against that, be it gay or straight. Like there's just a lot more strictness around that kind
Wait,
of
there's something that's unclear here. I think you equate being gay with being sexually promiscuous or sexually open, or having an image of a naked person on a billboard. But what about, like, do you not see that someone can be gay and be just like a low-key straight person?
Yeah, no, you definitely can, but if you look at the two different demographics, like there's very clear and obvious differences
What do you
in
mean if you look at? I mean, do you ever hear about a gay person who's not out on the street demonstrating about a certain topic, or they just look like every other person to you?
No, but what I mean by that is, like in the gay lifestyle, like it's much more risky. Like it's not even close. Like there's just a lot more going on, a lot more you have to look out for.
I mean, have you ever thought about
A lot.
how it's because of, or maybe partly because of the secrecy and the taboo aspect of it? It's like people practicing straight sex from for the first time, basically. Um, don't you see that if it's
No,
seen as like just as normal as straight relationships, then you'll have the freaks and you'll have the normal people, but you won't see them as just the freaks marching on the street, and now you think everyone's the same way. I'm not saying that anyone who's been to a parade is a freak, but I think that's the association that you're building in your head.
well, I guess what I mean by much more risky is like, so for example, like regarding diseases, regarding the, how badly those diseases affect you, regarding, I don't know how to say this. I don't want to like start getting too graphic, but between a male and a female, there's to some degree there's a balance between the way both their minds work. But when you have two males, it's just much more, it's a different dynamic. I don't know how to explain it. It's just
I
very
think every
different.
couple is a different dynamic than the other. Um, but I
What I
mean,
mean is like
yeah.
this. Like there's a lot of like places where I don't know how to really say it. It's just like in the gay community there's just a lot more stuff going on. It's just way easier. It's happening a lot more. And so that's why you see the reflection in these type of diseases you see spread. How quickly they spread, how many people they spread to. There's a lot more going on in that community, like versus the straight community. Not to say that in the straight community it's not crazy either, but it's a different dynamic, at least from where I am and what I've seen and what I've been around.
Yeah, I think that a lot of what you're saying is coming from certain biases in either the data that you're collecting or the way that you're seeing the data that you're collecting. Um, like for
No,
example,
this is
if you see a
Mhm.
promiscuous straight guy, um, or a promiscuous straight woman, you don't think of that STD vector as something that is caused by straightness. You just think, oh, that comes with sex. But so you kind of fail to see that, for example, say people have more partners in the gay community, because a lot of partners aren't open about it and it's harder to find a steady relationship, then you would think that,
and a
oh, the
lot more
gayness.
and a
Yeah.
lot more random and anonymous, and there's a lot of things that come along with that.
Well, why do you think it's random and anonymous? Isn't it because of the shame and hiding that people have to do?
No,
Like there are
doesn't
a lot of
seem to be
people
that
who,
way.
I mean, there are a
Pretty
lot of people
open
who
now.
think like you and say, that if this is openly known, then it's going to damage the family unit and damage society and all that kind of stuff. But they do it in secret, and they participate in that part of the gay community and in harming the gay community in both ways. Like, don't you see that is one of the vectors, one of the ways that this happens, that people are secretive and at the same time being gay is okay, but there are a lot of people who are secretive about it and do it shamefully, anonymously, hiding and making things worse and making it more messy, like you said.
I mean, in the US, it's pretty open. It's not really a secretive thing anymore. Some people still keep that going because, that they just prefer
I mean,
that.
are you pretty open about being gay?
Well, I'm open enough to talk to you about it, but I wouldn't tell my parents.
Yeah, and there are a lot of people like that, not just Muslims, but a lot of people like that in the US as well. So even if,
Yeah.
there's a movement now to make it okay to be gay, there are a lot of people who still secretly feel bad about being gay, and sometimes they act on it, sometimes they don't. And they contribute to that messiness in that community. So we're not comparing the same as,
Let me
heterosexuality.
just
Yeah.
yeah. Let me just throw it out there. I don't contribute to that. I'm just telling you what I've seen.
But
But
how do you see these things?
I just curiosity brings me around different. I've seen a lot of things.
I mean, did you? Okay, I'm not going to question you too hard on that. But I'm saying,
Yeah.
just like this position that you're taking, there might be someone who's taking a similar position, but also participating in being gay without openly admitting it. And that happens a lot of the times. Like I've seen a lot of complaints about how hard it is to date a gay man because a lot of them are closeted about it. Or when it comes time to commit, that's when they dip because, especially if they're from a religious background, that's when they have to go back and marry a woman. So things like that, even in a country that allows people to be gay without being persecuted by the law, they still happen. So we're not comparing like a mature acceptance of people being gay for hundreds of years to, people being straight for thousands of years. We're comparing a new phenomenon, like newly allowed to be openly gay, to has been openly straight for thousands of years.
Yeah, I guess, one thing I would mention is, so in the US we got this thing called PrEP, which is like HIV medication that stops you from getting HIV. It's pretty much all guys on that. Like even though girls get HIV, like it's pretty exclusive to a particular demographic. And, I think that I bring it up to say like the perspective I'm coming from is like that there really are just objectively, you could say, dangerous stuff associated with that. Now,
Okay,
does
well,
that mean we should
let me ask you this
feel
then. Lesbians, for example, women, they
Mhm.
don't have that same risk, do they?
I don't think so.
So would that eliminate that risk factor for you?
I guess for women, I guess they don't have to maybe think about it.
So why is it? I mean, if that's the reason, if men having possibly more STDs depending on how they practice sex, if that is the reason why it's bad for society to be gay, is there a similar reason for women, or are they just lumped in with the men just because gay is gay?
I don't know if anything's a reason for anything, but I'm just saying, like, this is just the reality of these things, like there's a lot more associated with it than we may kind of think of.
Yeah, but if we're mentioning it as part of the reality, then how does gay women not having the same diseases, how does that factor into that reality description?
Yeah, so I guess that description wouldn't really describe their reality. I guess maybe for males and females, there's particular differences, and that's one of them.
Yeah, so what I'm saying here is if it factors into how you view justification for not acting on being gay or whatever, if the male side of it factors in, then why doesn't the female side of it factor in canceling that out or ask, maybe.
Yeah, so I guess that factor wouldn't exist on the female side. Like, yeah, that's fine. I guess everyone can take that like this.
So if you were a female who is gay, would you feel the same justification as to why you shouldn't be gay, given that you don't have the same issue that you claim about STDs?
Well, there's still other other, you could say, negatives that come along with it. That you know, I don't know if any. It's not like I'm saying any one of these like, oh, that's why it's bad. That's why it's bad. I'm just pointing out that there's a lot more that comes along with it, you know, and I guess maybe that's, you know, part of the reason why I'm not like totally open or something. I'm not really sure.
It sounds like you're working backwards from the conclusion based on faith, which is being gay is somehow bad, and because God said it's bad, now let's find reasons why that makes sense.
Oh, no, for me personally, I feel like it's just like something to do with like nature. I don't think for me it's necessarily religion. You know, I was pretty young, and I was able to reconcile numerous sins with myself. You know, I've been sinning since, you know, I was 12 years old. I started doing a lot of this stuff. So I don't, you know, I
I
don't
mean,
know.
we're talking over the internet. None of this is natural. So why is nature relevant only when it comes to that aspect, but not everything else that we do in our lives?
You know, it's not that not, I can't say it's not natural. Like, I'm not saying it's natural or not, but just when you kind of see these inherent drives inside of living things, like, I just feel like there's something wrong with it. Like, that's just how I feel, you know. I feel like that's just like a accurate description of reality.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you sharing openly all of this with me, and yeah, I do need to.
A lot of people,
yeah.
Yeah, no, that's cool. I was gonna say, you know, a lot of people mentioned it, and I guess I wasn't necessarily understanding that connection. And so I know you've spoken to numerous people about it, so I figured you maybe have a good idea of how people think regarding that. And I don't know, maybe there's someone out there that's kind of having these questions, and
Yeah, no, I
I don't know
appreciate
what
you
might.
asking that. Yeah, and like I said, to sum it up, you know, people leave for different reasons, obviously, but one reason you might be noticing that correlation is the people who have realized that there's nothing wrong with being gay, then realize that there's other flaws in the religion that says there's something wrong about being gay, and that's how they make that link.
Yeah, sure, fair enough. But yeah, no, that's cool, man. I know you got other callers. I appreciate you taking the time and
Of course.
speaking with me again. And
yeah, and I hope you
talk
have
to
a
you.
great rest of your day.
Yes, sir. You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right. Thanks again to the caller. And seeing a lot of comments. Thanks to the moderators for keeping it civil. I appreciate that. And thanks for the participants as well. And again, before we get to the next caller, thanks a lot for the super chat. A-T-Rex says, Aladdin is definitely not forcing me to do this at gunpoint. You can see both my hands right here, but you couldn't see them when they typed out that comment. And thank you, Homo Sapien, for the super chat and the nice comment. I appreciate it. And again, Mark Rothenbuehler, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Thank you. I appreciate it. And the kitties do as well. Speaking of the kitties, a bit of sad news. Today I noticed that one of my cats has a couple of bald spots. And if someone knows in the comments what that could be, I'm worried that it's just stress and they're like he's grooming himself too often. I don't know. That needs to be a visit to the vet soon. So anyway, I really appreciate that. Thanks for reminding me of the cats and their needs. All right. Now, getting to the next caller, Rico, I hope you're ready because I'm adding you to the live stream now. Hey, Rico, can you hear me? You are currently muted, by the way.
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Welcome to the live stream. Yeah.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Of course. So tell me a little bit about yourself and why you're joining today.
Yeah, I'm Rico. I'm 23. I'm Muslim. I just wanted to ask, like, because I see a lot of like ex-Muslims that have YouTube channels and Instagrams, and they have in their bio like ex-Muslim and stuff. And I'm not a scholar or anything. I'm just gonna say that off the bat, but I don't understand why you have to go by ex-Muslim and have like a apostate YouTube channel. Like, I just want to know, like, what do you actually want to achieve from this? What do you want to gain from it?
Sure.
Like, what's the point?
Yeah. I can't speak for everyone, but I can speak for myself. And maybe I'll relay some of the other people's experiences as well. But I'll tell you that I stumbled into it. I didn't even have an intention of becoming some kind of spokesperson for ex-Muslims, but it kind of worked out that way. And the reason it happened is I was trying to figure out if there are other people who think like me. Because if you ask a Muslim, can someone leave Islam, or does it make sense for a Muslim to leave Islam? Very often you'll hear, no, it's only the bad people who want to leave, or this is, the whispers of the devil, or some explanation or another that doesn't seem to apply to the person asking the question. That's a very common experience. And then I came across people who, because they have public appearances talking about leaving the faith, that's how I realized I'm glad I felt crazy, and now I don't, because everyone around me was acting as if it's impossible for someone to leave the faith or to actually not be convinced of the religion. It's good to find this reassurance and to see that all the stereotypes that I've heard about ex-Muslims, they weren't necessarily true. It was just the image that many Muslims around me were painting of the person who leaves the religion. And that's very often informed by the religion itself and what it describes disbelievers to be. So that was one aspect, is letting people know what an ex-Muslim looks like, what they sound like. And of course, we're all different, so this is just one person's voice. But also having live streams like these, you get to actually hear discussions, and hopefully good ones, between ex-Muslims and other ex-Muslims or other believers, including Muslims. So it's better than just flinging stereotypes and insults back at each other. I think I have a more productive way of approaching it. So in many ways, this channel is for the needs of ex-Muslims who were ostracized by their communities for not believing in Islam. And because it's such a huge deal in many people's lives, many of us feel like we need to speak out to represent ourselves and to let each other know that we're here, and to not just be a footnote and a stereotype that were mentioned and talked about, but not actually talked to. So there's many more reasons, but I hope that begins to answer that question.
I hear what you're saying, but like, for me, if you want to leave something, so you've left your ex, like you're done with it, then why do you feel the need to keep talking about it? I know you're saying obviously you want to talk to other people about it, and you even said productive, but what do you actually want to produce? Like, I really struggle with it. Like, what are you aiming to produce? Basically, you want to convert more people away from Islam, or?
No, there are a lot
that
of
what it is?
people who don't believe in Islam, but feel crazy because of all the Muslims around them antagonizing them for not believing the same way. So one productive way is to give those people comfort and to give them an example of how it's not true. Muslims tell ex-Muslims or tell questioning Muslims, if you leave Islam, you become a very bad person, you start doing this and that. And on some level, we might start believing it. But when you witness other people who left Islam and they seem like a decent person, that kind of shatters that narrative. Now, the analogy that I always hear of, if you left your ex, why would you keep talking about them, is not a befitting analogy. I mean, if my ex was going around marrying other people, then I think it might be relevant for them to know if my ex was playing a huge role in my life currently, even as someone who left the religion, then I think I need to say something about it. So it's not at all the same as an ex who is going to leave you alone and is not going to harass you. As if you watch this channel, for example, and you hear people explaining how Islam affects their lives, Islam is the one that doesn't leave ex-Muslims alone. And by that I mean either believers or the belief itself, residual beliefs from back when someone was a Muslim. So that's why people feel the need to talk about it, because Islam doesn't enable an easy transition or an easy life for someone who doesn't believe in it anymore.
I get that. Again, I get that, but I do think there's also a lot of Muslims that leave, or ex-Muslims that leave Islam and have a peaceful life and don't feel the need to keep talking about it. because they've just left. And also, I don't use that analogy about their ex because I see that's flawed. That doesn't really make any sense. But there are a lot of, I can guess there's a lot of Muslims that leave Islam and they just leave and it's peaceful and there's no issues.
Sure, yeah, and they either come across channels like mine or they don't, and so this channel might not be for them. But just because some people have no issue in their life with the religion doesn't mean that the others who do should just be quiet because some people are allowed to be ex-Muslim. It's
I'd
seen
also
more.
say,
Yeah.
sorry, go on.
I'm saying it seems like there's a lot of cases of people who they report how they've been wronged by religion or its followers, and they're ignored because everyone says, well, that's just a fringe example. That's not really a common case. But now when we talk about it and it becomes more common, we hear, well, stop talking about it. So which one is it? Like, why shouldn't we advertise when people have issues with the religion?
No, but I'd argue that, like, the people that would have left Islam, they would have left Islam anyway, with speaking to people, not speaking to people, coming across a channel, not coming across like your channel. They would have left anyway. And the people that have questions of why and have stayed, they would have stayed anyway. It's not because of one person's, like, they've come across one person's view or one person's anecdotal story that they've changed their whole opinion or something, you know?
I'm not saying that I want to inform their opinion about their belief because they listened to someone who left Islam. Yeah, sure, there are a lot of people who would have stayed and would have left whether or not they came across my channel. But it's how they feel about themselves and how they see the world is difficult when everyone around them is telling them there's something wrong with you, or even if not in a hostile way, but they believe that there's something wrong with them, that there's something broken about them. They're the only person who's left Islam when it's actually not true. A lot of people around them left Islam and they can't talk about it because of people saying, stop talking about it. It's shameful. Keep it quiet. So just to know that they're not alone, that's alone a very useful thing.
Okay, but do you not think that someone who's having those thoughts, if they was to come across you, they're coming, it's like it's not in a rude way, but you're coming from a biased point of view because you're already ex-Muslim. So is it fair that they go to you?
I have countless hours of Muslims speaking unobstructed on this channel, almost more than you hear my voice, you hear other people's voice. Don't you see that I'm also giving a very balanced perspective by having Muslims speak about their own faith and the way that they view their religion?
No, but if someone's going to come to you and say, I have this question about Islam, I don't understand this bit, this part of it is morally unjust to me, you're obviously going to come at it from a biased point of view. You're not going to give the same answer I would, for example.
And that is,
for example,
particularly why I have people like you who talk about how they view the same issue. Like, I never claim to be the only source of information. I actively bring on people who disagree so that they can give their view as well.
Okay, fair enough. I still don't really get the point, but we'll have to agree to disagree. But also, the conversation.
Okay, let me rephrase it this way. Imagine if in a world most people were not Muslim. Right, most Arabs, most Middle Easterners were not Muslim, and some of them convert to Islam. And everyone around them was telling them, why are you starting a YouTube channel talking about Islam? Just keep quiet. We don't need to know that. And maybe some of them are going to be convinced by Islam, some of them will not be, but they don't find each other, and they feel like everyone around them is antagonizing them, and they're alone. Won't you see that there's a need for someone to talk about it openly?
I think that's different to ex-Muslim, because ex-Muslim, you've left the religion.
But how is it different when you're being like antagonized and vilified and you want to find other people like you?
But even when you're saying antagonized and vilified, what basis do you have that happens regularly to people?
I mean, if you watch this channel to any extent, you'll see that every week, like, I have to vary the topics of these live streams.
That's not a good enough sample size to say that every person has questions about Islam gets.
I'm not saying every person, but I'm saying it's a huge amount of people. What more data would you want? World,
you're saying a huge amount of people get antagonized and vilified when this happens?
Yes,
I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true. Not in the West, especially.
Based on what? What do you base your claim on?
I think if they were all getting antagonized and vilified, we'd hear a lot more about it.
But that's the thing. When we try to hear more about it, you say you shouldn't be talking about it. Like you just
No,
said
but
why we
I'm
shouldn't be
saying
talking about it.
you're saying that we're being antagonized and vilified. I'm saying how you have to prove that.
Okay, so how would we prove that? How would we hear more about it?
You have to bring up some studies, some statistics. Like, so you can't just make a claim and you've got no evidence for it.
How can we get
It's just based off,
statistics?
it's just based off
Like,
your
how
own
can we?
story. Because it happened to you, you feel as though it happens to everybody else.
Literally everyone is talking about this. It's not just me.
On
People
your
are
channel.
calling every week, and you
On
say.
your channel.
So, have you done a qualitative test, a quantitative
No,
test?
I'm not making the claim. You're making the claim.
I'm literally bringing on people who are talking about their lives and how Islam affected their lives, and you say that's not proof. No one is asking you to believe it.
No, it's not. I'm saying it's not a good enough sample size.
What are you doing
You
a better
make the claim.
job?
I'm not
Are
making
you
the claim.
doing a better job of claiming or disproving or making that claim or disproving it?
You're not understanding. I'm not making the claim. You're making the claim.
So you're upset with the claim.
Your reason for sorry, your reason for having the whole YouTube channel and the whole your whole identity is ex-Muslim. Your reason for that is there are many people that get
I don't think you were
antagonized and
listening.
vilified.
That's
I'm
not my
saying
whole
prove that.
identity.
You're saying, oh, my YouTube channel. I'm saying your YouTube channel is not a good enough sample size.
I think you haven't been listening. You've been waiting to say this, but you haven't been listening to what I'm saying. It's not my whole identity. And I'm not saying everyone who leaves Islam is going to be antagonized for it.
What's the first name in your YouTube channel? It's Apostate. No?
Again, you're not listening. You're still not listening. Like, yes, the first name is Apostate because do you understand that Murtad is a slur in Arabic? I'm using it to take back the word.
So it is your identity. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm saying, but that is your identity.
It's not my identity. No, it's not. Like, a lot of people in my day-to-day life know me, and they don't bring up religion, and they don't know if I'm Muslim or ex-Muslim or religious or not. It's only relevant because we're talking about it.
It's your brand.
My brand is someone who left Islam, yes, because that helps contextualize. Like, do you know how many Muslims I've spoken to on live streams like this that say, I used to think that ex-Muslims were all just jerks who want us dead and all this kind of stuff, but then I spoke to one. Like, how could they find out that if not for my channel?
I'm a Muslim and I've never thought that.
That's not what I'm saying. Again, you're very bad at listening. I'm saying there are a lot of Muslims who, because I brand myself as an ex-Muslim, they get to see that I don't fit the image of an ex-Muslim that they were expecting. Don't you see how that is a useful way of branding myself?
No, but for me, you fit it perfectly.
How do I fit perfectly?
Because it's your brand. The first name in your YouTube channel is Apostate, and it's literally your identity as ex-Muslim.
Bro, most Muslims are called Muhammad, and you don't see an issue with someone making their entire identity about religion. But somehow when it's critical,
supposedly left.
But somehow when it's critical about the religion, there's a problem with someone centering their one. It's not my identity; it's my online presence. And you know why I don't have a channel talking about everything in life and also being an ex-Muslim? Because people harm those who openly talk about being an ex-Muslim.
Oh, again, this is another claim that, again, I don't understand.
You want some evidence for that claim? I mean, look at the ex-Muslims of North America. They have a whole page dedicated to all the victims of people who were lynched by Muslims or had some legal action taken against them because of being critical of their religion. There's plenty of evidence.
Okay, but do you know how much Muslims there are that have joined religion, left Christianity, or maybe their parents were atheists, and they've been...
What's the relevance of any of that? We're talking about...
out of their homes.
What's the relevance of any of that? What's the relevance of that when we're talking about, do people get harmed for leaving religion, and is there a reason to talk about it?
I'm saying people get harmed for also joining religion.
Great, and people get harmed for walking down the street. What does that have to do with the topic at hand? Are you saying we shouldn't talk about it because some people get harmed for joining religion?
I'm saying you can talk about it. That's no problem. But when it's your whole identity, it's your brand, I don't see what the point is.
I've been trying to explain to you what I'm trying to achieve, but all you're repeating is the same talking. I know there's a lot of things that won't make sense to you, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of things that you believe that don't make sense to me. Yeah, it doesn't have to, but I'm at least trying to explain to you why it makes sense to me.
But that's fine then. To me, it makes no sense. I personally think it's just a way of making money.
Okay, this is a topic that I actually want to talk about candidly in a video very soon. Let me be very clear.
Please do. I'll watch that
I
video.
make, let me be very clear. Doing this, I make a third of what I used to make before I dedicated my time to this cause. A third. This is actually a financial strain for me.
Okay.
Like, you want to do the math, you want to go look at the number of views I get and use any online calculator to tell you how much money I would get from ad revenue. Even half that after taxes and fees and all of that, half of it, even if you double it, that's not a good amount of money. This is an accusation that people say to discredit anything that we say. This is not a good career path. This is not a safe career path. There's no money motivation here. Despite all of the people's generosity, I am digging into my own savings to do this. So no, I resent this implication that people do this for money.
Okay, fair enough. But we're not going to agree on that. But I wanted to bring up what you said about homosexuality. You said that there's nothing inherently wrong with homosexuality, and I want to know, like, how is nothing inherently wrong with it? How is it not immoral?
How is it more immoral? Well, you're making the claim
How
that
is
it's
it not
immoral.
immoral?
You're making the claim
how
that
is
it's
it not
immoral. How is it immoral?
No, sorry. I'm saying, how is it immoral? Yeah, sorry.
No, I'm saying you're telling me it's immoral.
Yeah.
How?
Because for me, what is the difference between homosexuality and incest?
Man, I've heard this 1,000 times, and I honestly, I
Ask the
have.
question. Don't.
I
You
don't have to
answer the
do. I don't have to do anything. You're a guest on my. I'm hosting you here. We're having a conversation. I've
You don't
had
have
this
to get angry
conversation many
because you can't
times.
answer the question.
No, I'm getting very angry because you're not listening.
Because you can't answer the question, my friend.
We're not friends, and you're not listening. Like
Just
this,
answer the question, please.
let me tell you something very, very clearly before I entertain you. This is a conversation that we're having. We both have to agree on the goals of the conversation. And it seems like
Yeah.
your goals of the conversation is, I've got a few gotchas that I can't wait to regurgitate
It's not a
out.
gotcha. It's
No,
really
no.
not a gotcha.
I know it's
It's
not,
really not.
but you are an insufferable person to speak to. Like, seriously, it's not about your
basically
question
can't
about
answer the
homosexuality. No, it's because of the conversation that we've been having up until this point. It's okay. Let's mute you for a second. It's about the conversation that we've been having up until this point. You've been an insufferable person to speak to. And if you can't see that, like if you want evidence of that, go back and rewatch it.
You have to answer the question.
Again, I remind
Please.
you, I don't have to do anything, just like you don't owe me anything. You don't owe me an answer to the question.
You can't answer the question.
I swear, it's like talking to a bot. I swear.
You cannot. I just asked you a question, my friend. That's all I did.
We are not friends. You haven't been behaving the way that
I'll
a
answer your
friend
question,
behaves.
Aladdin. I asked you a question.
Again, if I answer your question, I'm playing into your way of handling this discussion.
So what's the point of a conversation if you're not going to answer my questions?
What's the point of a conversation if you're not even listening to what I'm talking about? A conversation is not what?
I'm trying to listen, but you're not giving me an answer.
You're not even, like, we've been talking about something, you're not listening, and you keep regurgitating the same thing about, I just don't get it. I don't see the parallels. I don't get it. Then try to understand what we were talking about before you move on to the next point. You're not even attempting to understand. You just want to say, I got him. He didn't want to answer my question. I got him. No, it's if I start entertaining your line of questioning, then this is just as silly of a conversation as any I've had before.
You asked me, why is it immoral? And I said to you, okay, so what's the difference between incest, which you would agree is immoral, would you not?
You're not answering the question. You're answering the question with another question, and then you have the gall to say, I have to do something.
So I've got to answer your question, but you won't answer mine.
I started by asking you a question,
Okay,
and then you
without mentioning incest.
No, tell me. So basically, you're saying it's immoral because it's the same as incest.
No, I'm not saying that. That was just
then what are you saying? What are you saying?
I'm saying it's immoral because it doesn't.
You didn't say that. You did not say that. No, if we're going to be pedantic, no, I'm not going to let you finish. If we're going to be pedantic, you didn't say that. I asked you that question. Why is it immoral? And you said, well, isn't banging your cousin immoral? Well, you didn't say it that way. But you basically said, what's the difference between it and incest? You didn't answer the question. So you want to go ahead and answer the question? Let's start
now.
here.
You're not letting me talk.
Go ahead. Start answering the question now.
I tried to, but you cut me off.
Yeah, because you actually, because you were just saying earlier, well, cousin stuff. You didn't say anything
I
about
didn't say
family. So start right
I didn't
now
say
by
anything
telling
about
me
business.
why is it immoral to be gay or have a gay
No, but
relationship?
I was about to answer it without mentioning incest, and you cut me off.
Yeah, because I wanted to remind you of the first time you were answering that. You didn't mention anything.
Okay, so why would you
Okay.
ask me a question, and then when I'm
Go
halfway
ahead.
through answering it,
Go
you cut
ahead.
me off to mention me
Because I
something
wanted to
I
make
said
a
5
point.
minutes
Because
ago?
I wanted to make a point to about how insufferable you are.
Okay, so
That's
can I
not
ask
how
the
you
question?
spoke
Yes
to
or
me
no?
the first time. Go ahead. Answer the question.
Okay, thank you very much. Please don't cut me off. Yeah, I think it's immoral because you cannot have a traditional family with it. You cannot procreate with it. There are sexual diseases that come from it, and yeah, that's my main reasons.
Okay,
Really.
let's take it one step at a time. Because you can't procreate because you can't have a traditional family with it. What does the traditional
No,
family
you
mean?
cannot. So a kid that comes from two parents, you cannot have a kid from two men. That man cannot get pregnant. I don't know if you don't know that.
So can people adopt if they can't get pregnant?
Okay, I don't believe that it's the optimal situation to have a child with
Can
two
is it
adults who
moral
you
for
don't know.
someone who can't have kids to adopt?
Yes, 100%. I think it's not. I'm not saying you cannot have a good family with it, but I'm saying it's not the optimal situation.
So it's
Optimal
okay for
situation is
gays to
mother,
adopt, but it's not the
husband.
optimal situation. Is that what you're saying?
No, optimal husband. Sorry, optimal situation is the
Screw
nuclear family.
optimal. Screw optimal. We're talking about whether it's moral or not.
Why are you getting?
So
Why are you getting
because
insulting?
because I'm not insulting you by saying screw optimal. I'm saying you're kind of being evasive
That's the
here,
word I'm using.
right? No, you're being extremely evasive. So you're saying you can't have a traditional family because you can't have a baby from two men or
Nuclear
two
family.
women. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. But if you were a straight man and a straight woman who can't have kids, you can adopt. And that's a traditional family to you, even though they didn't have that kid biologically?
Yeah, I think that's fine because you still got the women's side and you still got the men's side.
So you're basically saying you cannot raise an orphan. You'd rather an orphan be in an orphanage than a gay couple raising them.
No, but obviously, if we're gonna be like, let's not make it like.
No, that's
extreme
because
situations.
these
I'm
are
saying
options.
it's not the
It's
optimal
not extreme.
situation.
Okay,
I'm saying it's not the optimal situation.
that we're not even talking about extremes here. There's a kid at an orphanage right now who a gay
I'm saying
couple
that's
will
not the
adopt.
best way to do it.
Okay, what I'm
It's not
saying
how it
is,
should be. I'm saying traditionally, that's not how it should be, in my
okay,
personal opinion.
I don't care about your tradition. We're talking about whether or not it's moral. You can't just fall back on
Again,
tradition
you're
and say
being
it's not my tradition, therefore I see it as immoral.
I'm saying that's not
That's
how it should be, in my opinion.
I don't care about what you think it should be. We're talking about whether or not
So
it's
why am I
moral.
on the? Why am I
No,
on
because
the
we're
show?
talking about morality. Like you're telling me it's immoral, then we'll focus on that. Then it's a distraction to say, well, it should be this because my tradition says so. Well, let's focus.
I'm saying it's immoral because that's not how a kid should be raised.
You're saying it's immoral because it's suboptimal.
Yes.
So you're saying that a suboptimal arrangement for parenthood.
That's a reason.
Can you let me finish? Can
Yeah,
you
go
let
on.
me finish? You're saying
Yeah,
that
go on.
it's suboptimal, therefore it's immoral. There's a huge difference between suboptimal and immoral. And if you want to say that two gay people, two women, two men, it's suboptimal that they adopt a kid compared to the kid having a set of biological parents, sure, you could say that. But is it not better than that kid being in an orphanage?
Okay, so can I respond to that?
Yeah.
I maybe said it a bit wrong. So I'd say it's not suboptimal to have a man and a man raising a kid and a woman raising a kid, but I wouldn't say that's immoral. But I'd say homosexual sex, which is what's actually
Can we
haram,
focus on one thing at a time?
I'll let you talk. I'll let you finish.
No, I got to keep you on point. Can we focus on one thing at a
but
time? Because you can't
just
gish
made a
gal.
point. I'm trying to correct you.
No, you're not correcting me. Now you're talking about homosexual sex. Are we talking about the
'cause I'm
family unit or are we talking about sex?
No, I'm saying that the homosexual sex is what's immoral. That's what's immoral.
Then why did you
I'm
bring
not saying-
family into it? Like you can't focus on it. Then
I said that is one of the reasons why homosexuality is wrong.
so one of the reasons why homosexuality is wrong is it's a suboptimal arrangement for the kid. And then I try to talk about that, and you say, "Well, sex is bad." It's difficult.
You cannot have kids. It's not the best. You can't procreate from it. And okay, why didn't you go through the other thing I said?
You're not even sticking to one point. I can't address everything that you're saying at the same time. Can you just focus on for a second about they can't have kids? So can a couple who cannot procreate, someone whose sperm doesn't work or someone whose uterus doesn't work perfectly and they can't procreate, like they shouldn't adopt or they shouldn't have sex because it's not going to lead to procreation?
Well, they can have adopt, yeah, 100%.
And should they not have sex because they're not going to have a kid?
Well, they can still have sex, yeah.
But two women can have sex also without having a kid, but that's bad.
But again, that's where the other parts come into it, where
you can't make it multifaceted and then jump between the facets just because you don't want to address one to its finality.
No, because it's not all just down to one reason. It's down to multiple.
It's down to multiple bad reasons. No, here's the problem. Like, I see this also with Islamic apologetics. It's a bunch of bad reasons that you don't see to their like you don't finish a point to. Just let me finish. You don't finish a point to its conclusion and you jump to another one. And I don't like that. You want to talk about family units? Let's talk about family units. You can't just halfway through be like, well, also the sex is bad. Like, focus on one thing at a time.
Okay, go on.
Yeah, so the first thing that you said, family. We're trying to talk about family. And I'm describing to you how you're saying optimally the kid would have a mother and a father. Sure, but isn't it better for a gay couple to adopt a kid than a kid to just remain in an orphanage?
Yeah.
Okay, so how is it immoral for a gay couple to have a kid through adoption compared to a straight couple having a kid through procreation?
I said that's not immoral. I said that's suboptimal.
Okay, but you started by saying it's immoral to be gay because it's not a good family.
No. I said that's one of the reasons, but I said homosexual sex.
You can't say it's one of the reasons and then say it's suboptimal. It's not really a reason. Stick to your point. Is it a reason? Is it not?
I said it's one of the reasons.
So so it's not immoral because they can't have a family then? You're dismissing that point and you're jumping to another one.
Sorry, say that again.
Like you're kind of just burning that point to the ground and jumping to another one and saying, well, there's also other reasons. So do you think that the family is not a reason that homosexuality is immoral?
No. That's not no, it's not the reason, no.
So why did you mention it as a reason?
It's one of the reasons.
I'm not saying it's the reason. It's a valid reason. Are you saying it's a valid reason despite
I'm saying it's one of the reasons, yeah.
But I just demonstrated to you how a couple can be infertile and you don't see that it's immoral that they have sex because they're not having kids. You don't see that as immoral.
And I said to you, then that's what, just because you take out one of the reasons doesn't mean that the others don't exist.
But do you agree that I took out one of the reasons? That's what I'm trying to focus on before we just jump on to the next thing. Do you now see that your mind has changed about viewing that reason?
No, my mind hasn't changed because I always believe that.
But that's the point with having this discussion. What's the point of having a discussion if every time I try to engage with one of your points, you jump onto the next one, not even abandoning your belief in the first point?
So if I said to you, let's say I said to you, cabbage is bad, and then I've given you a set of reasons, and then you just take out one of the this one's not there. Then I say, okay, well, it's fine.
If you give me a laundry list, if you give me a laundry list of reasons why cabbage is bad, and I shoot down the first reason, at least I expect an acknowledgement that you say, you know what, I hadn't thought of that. That's not a good reason why cabbage is bad. Before you say, well, it's still bad because of third reason.
That doesn't mean that's not a good reason.
That's double speak right now. You're saying, okay, just because you took down one reason, and then you're saying it doesn't mean that it's a bad reason. Did I take it down? You said that.
You just added context to it and situation where it's acceptable.
I didn't turn. I demonstrated how your reasoning is flawed. And like, if you can't acknowledge that your reasoning was flawed, then what's the point of this discussion?
No, but it's not flawed though.
Like, again, the stubbornness. You just said just because you took down one of my reasons doesn't mean that the conclusion is wrong. You said took down one of the reasons.
No, I said you changed the context of one of the reasons. You didn't take it down.
I didn't change the context. Like, I don't know what context you're thinking of gay relationships of.
To switch it in a way where now it makes sense.
I didn't apply context. I'm describing the reality of a gay relationship. I don't know what gay relationships you witness.
Okay, so what if it's someone that's infertile? And I said, okay, fair enough. And I said, what if you said, what if is it better that a gay couple adopts than stay in orphanage? And I said, yeah. Oh, so you've added context to it. That's what you've
Yeah,
done.
I'm using these examples to demonstrate to you
Yes or
that
no?
your
Have you added
point is
context?
wrong.
Have you added context? Yes or no?
Again, not engaging with what I'm saying and just asking your own question and being like, answer my question, yes or no, yes or no. Yes or no, you acknowledge that the first point doesn't actually apply to why it's immoral to be gay. Yes or no,
No.
before we move on.
No.
So why do you think that my reasoning makes sense, but still it's a good reason why people are being gay is immoral?
Wait. Are you saying that the first reason is saying that it's not? That shows that it's not immoral.
No, it demonstrates
shows
that the
that it's
first reason
suboptimal.
is bad as a reason to use for why it's immoral. Before we move on to the next one,
No, I don't believe that. No.
why do you not? Damn, it's so difficult having a discussion with you because you don't operate in a way that a civil discussion should go. You're just jumping to the next point, like being gay is still bad because it's the second reason. Well, can we just talk about the first reason for long enough for you to say, I could have been wrong about that first reason?
I'm definitely not wrong about it. You haven't
Again,
proved
what's
anything. You applied context and you switched it up and you made it in a way where it's not immoral. But that doesn't change the exception.
I didn't make it in a way that it's not immoral. I demonstrated it to you that it's not immoral. Just because I used words to demonstrate, I have to mute you for a second. Just because I use words and examples to demonstrate how your reasoning is fallacious doesn't mean that I used context to deceive you into agreeing that this is not immoral.
I never said you deceived me. I said you changed context and you applied it in a way where now it's. I'm not saying there's no exceptions. I'm saying the exceptions doesn't make the rule.
Can you at least acknowledge that then this family talking point that you said was moot?
For the sake of discussion, I'll acknowledge, yes. Okay, maybe I was wrong about that. But that's only for the sake of discussion.
No, I don't want it to just be for the sake of discussion, like for the sake of an honest discussion. Do you actually believe that I was right, that it doesn't make sense that just because you want to have a family, that being gay is immoral?
I don't agree with that. I do believe it's immoral. Still, even if you want to have a family and you're homosexual, I believe it's immoral. Yes.
So your first talking point about why being gay is immoral is a family. You can't have a family while being gay, or it's not good to have a family while being gay. I explained how.
I believe it's immoral to raise a kid with two men in the house and no female in the house.
Why do you believe it is immoral?
No motherly figure.
Why do you believe that is
immoral?
immoral?
Have to study Bowlby's attachment theory, and the mother is literally it's so important in a kid's life. It's so important. This is shown in so many studies.
So do you think that do you think that a straight man? Do you think a straight man?
Can I finish?
Go ahead.
Thank you. There's so many cases of delinquents, even like there's studies done of young kids who are like 14 and are thieves, end up going to jail. They didn't have a mother bond. And you want to raise so many kids in houses with just two men.
Okay,
that doesn't make any sense. You're taking away one thing that.
Can I say something? Can I say something?
I'm nearly done. They're innately born to have. So now go on. Now you can talk.
I haven't read the studies that you're quoting, so I'm not going to dispute or agree with them.
Bowlby's attachment theory.
Can I finish? So,
okay, go on.
Based on your logic here, are you saying that a man who has a kid and now doesn't have a wife, whether because of its divorce or she died or something of that nature, that is immoral for him to raise that kid without a woman figure?
Again.
Can you answer my question? Is it immoral? Can you answer my question? Is it immoral for a man to raise a child without a woman present?
You don't want to answer back. Why do you have to answer your questions, but you don't have to answer mine?
Because I'm trying to shape this conversation into something productive, and you don't finish a point to its conclusion.
No, but that doesn't answer my question. Why do I have to answer your questions, but you don't?
Because I'm trying to get you to finish a point to its conclusion. I am attempting to finish points to their conclusion. You're not doing the same.
So was I.
You don't seem to be doing the same thing. The question is, before we move on to the next point, I'm saying it's suboptimal for a kid to grow without a mother figure. So therefore, adopting a kid, two gay men adopting a kid, or two women adopting a kid is bad for similar reasons the other way around, I assume, that is immoral because it's suboptimal. I'm trying to explain to you through an example. If a straight man is raising a kid without a mother, you wouldn't see it as immoral, would you?
No.
Then why is it immoral? Like, is it immoral for a straight man or a straight woman, single, or divorced or whatever, but just no presence of a spouse in their life? Is it immoral for them to adopt a kid?
No.
Then why is it immoral for two men or two women to adopt a kid?
Because, like I said, when are you saying that the man or the woman, are they single from choice or no?
It doesn't matter whether they had a partner that died or they're single, but they don't currently have a partner and they want to adopt a kid from the shelter, from the orphanage.
Like
is
I
it
said,
immoral?
there are exceptions. I still believe that's suboptimal, but it's just
Yes,
not
but
it's not their fault. They haven't chosen to adopt a kid.
okay,
They haven't chosen
no,
to take
they're
a kid.
choosing to adopt a kid even though they
And they're
don't have a partner. Is
And
it
they're
immoral?
single.
Yes.
I think that's suboptimal. I wouldn't say that's immoral. No.
Yes, so it's suboptimal but not immoral. What is the difference between a suboptimal, the way that you see it, a lesbian pair, couple adopting a kid, and a single woman or a single man adopting a kid? Both are suboptimal the way that you view it, except the couple would at least have a second partner to help with parenting. How is that immoral despite being less suboptimal?
Because you've gone out of your way when you know that that's not how a kid should be raised. And
So a single parent have gone out of their way to adopt.
That's true. That is very true.
But it's not
But like I
immoral.
said to you, there are exceptions to the rule, but that doesn't make the rule.
Those are not exceptions
This
to
is
the
an
rule.
exception.
That's an
You're
exception
making
in your
exceptions.
consistency. You're saying suboptimal is immoral. I'm showing you an example of suboptimal that you don't consider immoral. Doesn't that break your
Okay,
view?
you know what? Fair enough. Okay, maybe suboptimal is not immoral.
So it's not immoral to adopt a kid as a gay couple because it's suboptimal.
Yes, I can see that.
So why else would it be immoral for a couple to adopt a kid, a gay couple?
No, because I just told you.
But what you just told me is not consistent with how you view a single parent, a straight parent, who would adopt a kid. It's also suboptimal, but you don't view that as
I'm
immoral.
agreeing with you. That's not immoral, but it is suboptimal.
Okay, so you don't think... See, that's progress. You don't think that it's immoral for a gay couple to adopt a kid.
No, but I believe it's suboptimal.
Yes, but you don't believe it's immoral.
No.
Okay, that's a start. I mean, I don't know enough about gay families to tell you with data that actually what you're saying is not true and it's not suboptimal. I can at least tell you, if you consider a single parent suboptimal, having two of that parent, even if it's not a male and a female, is less suboptimal than a single parent, right? Like dual income, dual time to raise the kid. That's probably...
Yeah, I'll accept that, but I still do believe it's suboptimal.
Okay, sure. But it's not immoral because of...
No, it's not immoral. I concede that, yeah.
Okay. So what other reasons do you have for believing that being gay or, being in a gay relationship is immoral?
No, not a relationship. I believe homosexual sex is immoral.
So what makes you believe that it's immoral?
Again, well, I just told you why. And also the sexual
Wait, no,
diseases.
you didn't just tell me why. The first reason, family.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Sorry. The sexual diseases. I believe there's sexual diseases that come from it.
Okay, so do women get diseases from having sex with each other? I mean, the answer is yes, but not at the same rates as men. For women, the rates are actually, I believe STD rates are even lower than with straight couples. Does that mean that being a gay woman is moral, but being a gay man is immoral?
Well, again, I'd have to see for myself. From what I've read, and this is from the World Health Organization, homosexual sex is 7 times more likely to have sexual diseases, to transmit sexual diseases than straight couples.
So what about, as far as I understand, women don't have that same risk factor.
But women can't actually have penetrative sex.
Doesn't matter whether or not it's penetrative. That's not. I don't think that's the topic here. Women do have sex with each other, and achieve pleasure with each other. I don't think it matters whether or not it's penetrative. They don't have the same risk, disease risk, for many reasons. Does that mean that if that is true, right? You don't have
Well,
the
I'd have to see
statistics,
that.
but
If that's true,
sure, if it
I'd
is
have to
true
see that.
that women have lower STD rates than straight relationships, like women in gay relationships, does that mean that it's now moral to be a gay woman?
Well, I'd have to look into the statistics.
But yeah,
But again,
let's
I'm talking about
assume that.
penetrative sex. I'm not talking about
Why are
oral.
we
I'm talking
talking about
about
penetrative sex? But why are we talking
Because
about
that is
penetrative?
sex. That is sex. Penetrative sex.
But do you think that non-penetrative sex is not sex?
In my opinion, no. It's not.
Man,
It's just pleasure.
You and your partner will be missing out on a lot of things. There's a lot more to it than
I'm
penetrative
not saying you
sex.
can't do it. I'm not saying you can't do it. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm saying I don't believe that is sex. I think sex is penetrative sex,
So do lesbian couples not have sex if it's not penetrative?
not penetrative sex. No, unless they,
No,
I don't want to get into details. But
No,
you know,
I'm saying like most lesbian couples, then do they not have sex according to your definition of sex?
it's pretty much impossible.
But so what do you say to all the lesbian couples who say they do have sex? Like, are you telling them, no, you're wrong because it's not penetrative?
I'd say it's not penetrative sex. It's clearly not. You can't have a square circle.
I mean, it's just funny to me that your definition of sex is it has to be penetrative. But I'm telling you, a lot of people...
In my opinion, that is sex, yes. Anything else is... Oral is oral.
Okay, so lesbian relationships or lesbian sex, is that immoral?
They can't have sex. I don't believe lesbian sex is a real thing.
Whatever they do, if you don't want to call it sex, they call it sex. Whatever it is that they do, is that immoral?
Yes.
Why?
Because again, it doesn't contribute to procreation.
But we already talked about, okay, maybe we talked about family and adoption, but let me clarify that first part. If a couple cannot procreate, should they not have sex for fun if they cannot procreate?
No, sorry, say that again.
If a couple, a straight couple, married, Muslim, all that stuff, they cannot have kids, or they purposely have sex in a way that so that they don't have kids, is that immoral?
Is that immoral? Really, yes. By the definition, yes, because you're like, what's the word? You're sort of reducing the birth rate, the chances of birth.
So if you don't want to have kids, that's immoral? It's immoral to not have kids?
No, it's not immoral. You're right. No, sorry, it's not immoral. No,
So
but it's wrong. I'm saying it's wrong. It shouldn't happen.
Why is it wrong for someone to not have kids? Like, are you not aware of how the inflation of populations all around the world? We're already...
I'm not saying you can't have kids, but I'm saying if you're just having sex purely for pleasure, then I do believe that's wrong. I don't believe that's what sex is for.
What, isn't wrong and immoral synonymous? Like, you're saying it's immoral to have sex if not for procreation?
I think immoral is a stronger word, but I'd say it's wrong. I'm saying that sex is not for pleasure. It's primarily for pleasure. It's not primarily for pleasure. It's primarily for procreation.
I really hope you change your mind. If you have a partner, I hope for your partner's sake that you change your mind about that.
No, I'm not saying you can't have fun doing it, but I'm saying I do believe, again, but this just goes back to my worldview. Marriage is for procreation. It's not just to have a couple with someone. The primary focus is procreation. That is an evolutionary thing. It's not even just a religion thing.
No, but people can have intercourse. Like, it's not bad. It's not wrong or immoral. Neither of those words. It's not wrong or immoral to have intercourse, not for the sake of having kids.
No, I believe that's not what sex is for. Again, this is all grey. This is all grey, like, areas, you know.
Does it matter whether or not it's for that? Like, we're talking about immorality. You're saying a gay couple is immoral because they cannot procreate that way.
Just comes with, like, I'm making it sound like it's really bad. I'm not saying I'm just saying that's not, in my opinion, that's not what sex is for.
Okay, but let's clarify.
Because of that, homosexual sex just shouldn't be a thing.
So
because I just don't believe.
But we have to be consistent. Are you saying no chance of? Are you saying people should not have sex if it's not for kids? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying sex is not for that.
But we have to be consistent here. If you're saying gay people shouldn't have sex because they cannot possibly have a child that way, then are you
Not
saying
only
straight
because of
people?
that, though.
What?
Not only because of that.
But we're taking it one thing at a time. But you're saying at least for that reason, partly, right? Gay people should not have
Yeah.
sex because it will never lead to a pregnancy.
Yeah, I'm saying it's not it will never, it's not conducive to what like sex is primarily for.
No one says that
That's what
sex is primarily for having intercourse. And I don't care if you think that is your view of sex. I'm trying to compare the consistency here. You're saying a straight couple can have sex not for procreation. You think it's not great. It's better if they do it just to procreate, but they can, and it's not immoral for them to have intercourse. But a gay couple, it's immoral for them to have intercourse because it'll never lead to procreation. That's not consistent.
It's not like I don't know how to put this in a better way, but pulling out is frowned upon. It's disliked. It's not a good thing.
Yeah, I know that there's a
Perception is
hadith that someone was asking the Prophet, unfortunately, after they took some slaves, they asked the Prophet, can we have intercourse with them and pull out? And the Prophet said, don't pull out, it doesn't make a difference, or something like that. God wrote their fate. So your views about sex are informed by your views about religion?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
So if God told you to finish inside or outside, you do whatever God says.
I'd live my life by what God says, yes.
So going back to the point here, you think that a gay couple can never procreate, therefore it's immoral for them to have sex. But a straight couple who can never procreate, be it because of infertility or whatever other reason, it's not immoral for them to not have sex. It's just frowned
I agree with
upon.
you earlier. I'm not saying it's immoral. I'm saying it's not what it's not what sex is primarily for.
Okay,
If we're gonna say if I'm saying that homosexual
but there's
sex
progress
is
here.
immoral,
Mhm.
maybe the procreation point is not the best point to go to, but I'm saying it's a reason.
No, but I want you to be consistent. So far we've achieved that you don't think that it's immoral for a gay couple to adopt. It's suboptimal
so-
according to you, but it's not immoral. And now it's
Yeah.
not immoral for a gay couple to have sex
No, it is immoral for a gay couple to have sex.
because it's not going to lead to procreation.
No, that's part of it, but
It can be
it's a
partly.
package. There's a package. It's
It
not
can be
just
part of
one
it.
thing.
Like you can't use bad reasons as part or partly the reason. Is it a good
It's not
reason or is it not? It's a bad reason because we're just going through an example. A straight couple, infertile, it's not immoral for them to have sex. But a gay couple, it's immoral for them to have sex because of procreation. Why?
Okay, but no, I'm saying it's one of the reasons.
I have to repeat this.
But to be honest,
You can't
can
use.
I just say this though? Can I just say this? The reason I believe homosexuality is wrong, if I'm just being 100% honest, is because God tells me it is. When I'm coming up with reasons for it, that's just my opinion. It's nothing to do with religion.
Well, I
I
appreciate
could
that.
be wrong. I could be wrong. Maybe these aren't the reasons why it's haram, but I believe it's wrong because God tells me it's wrong. That's my personal opinion. But these are my reasons why I believe it's actually wrong as well.
I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah.
It's good to know that so you're working back from the conclusion that it is wrong, and you're trying to see reasons why that could be the case.
No, I'm not trying that. I've looked into this, and in my personal opinion, these are reasons why it is wrong. Yeah.
But you're reiterating what I just said. You're working back from the conclusion that it is wrong because God said it's wrong, and your opinion
Yeah.
happens to coincide with what God said because of the reasons that you're listing.
Yeah.
And now we're going through these reasons, and even if we went through the family reason, and now you concede it's not immoral, it's suboptimal. We went through the procreation reason, and you concede, okay, maybe it's not immoral because they can't procreate, but it's still immoral because God said so. But it's good not to skip ahead in every one of these steps because your opinion has changed now compared to the beginning of this conversation, not about whether or not gay sex is immoral, but how you arrived at that. Now you can see more clearly, it's not actually because of procreation, it's not actually because of family, it's actually because God said so.
No, to be honest, my main reason is the sexual diseases bit. That's my main.
You just said your main reason is God.
No, sorry, God as well. But I'm saying that's God's. I work back for it. But I'm saying after God, the main reason is sexual diseases. Yeah.
And if you
Procreation,
look it up,
I concede procreation maybe doesn't prove that it's immoral, but it proves that it's suboptimal. But I think the sexual diseases is what proves that it's definitely immoral.
so women don't have the same issues with sexual diseases. And if men had
Again,
ways
like I
to,
said to you before, I'd
sure,
have to look into that.
you can look that up later. And if men have ways of practicing safer gay sex that is actually safer than straight sex, if they just put in the effort to practice it in a safe way, would you then see that it's not immoral because now that is not a factor anymore?
I'd still say it's immoral because God says it is, but I'd concede that my reasoning was wrong. Do you know what I mean? Does that make
Right.
sense?
So, is there anything that could change your mind about gay relationships or intercourse being immoral?
No. To be honest, no.
Because God said that it's immoral. So none of the reasons that you mentioned actually matter.
No, they do matter. They increase my faith and they make me not question it. The same way other Muslims that we were talking earlier about people that question their faith. I've never questioned it because I understand why it's bad. I have my own reasons why it's bad. So I understand it. You know, I can't question it. But
I mean,
like,
so
if all those reasons were completely in the bin, my faith is so strong that I'd still believe it.
so everything we were talking about earlier, you know, the family, the adoption,
Those my
procreation.
opinions.
Yeah, okay. Those are your opinions, and you said they strengthen your faith because of all these reasons.
Yeah.
Right. But then we've removed some of these reasons. They're no longer part of why it's immoral. Did that weaken your faith?
Not at all, because I don't think you removed them. I think you applied context and you made situations where it makes sense.
I'm describing how they're actually they present in real life compared to the just stereotypical examples of what gay relationships are. I'm showing you in context of real world examples what that looks like. But as you said, none of this discussion affects whether or not or how strongly you believe in the principle that it is immoral to be gay or to have gay relationships or gay sex. So these reasons do not factor in your belief in that belief at all. That belief is what God said. These reasons have no effect, positive or negative.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, but even if I think even if I wasn't Muslim, I'd still think it's wrong.
Even if I talked you through every one of these reasons and you conceded that, yeah, it doesn't mean that it's immoral, then you wouldn't have God said so to fall back on if you weren't Muslim.
But with the sexual diseases, but you couldn't sway my mind on that.
We haven't gotten into it because you still need to do some reading. And as I explained, I've tried to explain this to people before. It is true that in male-on-male sex, there's a higher risk of STDs, but there's a lot of factors that go into it that actually have to do with it being taboo and being a secret and people doing it in secret. So it's sort of like it feeds into itself. Because it's taboo, there's more STDs, and because there's more STDs, it's more taboo. So there's a lot more to be said about it. But I'm glad that we had this conversation because it demonstrated that all of these reasons don't actually factor into your belief in gay sex being wrong. These reasons are not even secondary. They don't factor in a positive or negative way. Because whether or not they exist, you still believe that gay sex is wrong because God said so.
Yeah, but even if I wasn't Muslim, I'd still believe these reasons.
I don't really care to talk about that hypothetical because it's hard enough having a discussion right now as you are a Muslim.
You just said a hypothetical.
No, I mean, you're saying if you were not a Muslim, you think you can ascertain what your personality is. Trust me, as someone who's made that transition, you don't just retain all of your opinions and beliefs the same way. So you can't really easily say, if I wasn't a Muslim, then I would have the same opinion.
I think I would.
No, I'm
very sure I would.
I don't want to.
I've read the research. I've done the research. I've read studies. Like,
I mean, in all of your reading
is.
of studies, we just had a short conversation here, and I showed you how your reasoning was fallacious.
You did not want to prove to me that homosexual sex is.
But I proved to you at every stage that your reasoning to get there was fallacious.
No, but you didn't prove to me that it doesn't is not conducive to more sexually transmitted diseases than straight sex.
I'm saying that to me. Again, at every stage I demonstrated, mute for a second, at every stage I demonstrated how what you're saying was incorrect, right? You're focused on, but you didn't prove to me everything. At every stage I demonstrated what you were saying is incorrect, and it plays no role in your belief. So it was useful to know that.
That's fair. No, that's fair enough. But I'm saying they also, my belief also plays. It doesn't like, it wouldn't change what I believe. If I left Islam today, I'd still think homosexuality is wrong.
And that happens a lot. There are a lot of people who leave Islam and retain some of their other beliefs, but
Exactly. So why do you not believe that I could?
no, I'm not saying that. I'm saying it's pretty bold and short-sighted to say I know exactly what I would believe in a different situation. Like, I don't think you realize how much of a paradigm shift not believing in religion can give you in your life. But hey, I'm not going to change your mind about that. You think you're going to be homophobic with or without Islam, I can't change your mind about it.
You think it's homophobic to disagree with homosexual sex?
Yeah, because I mean,
So
I don't care what people do in their bedroom. Like, if I say it's immoral, then I am against it.
If what you're doing in your bedroom is spreading sexual diseases.
Again, like, to engage with this point, like, let's just assume I'm a woman and I'm talking about women on women sex here. Like I said, that has no risk factor. I mean, a very low risk factor compared to even straight sex. That undermines your whole point. I don't think that it's actually built on these reasons. I think you're working back from the conclusion that it's bad, and you'll cling on to any reason that it's bad.
No, but that's your opinion. But I know myself, and I know myself better than you do.
That's okay. That's why we had this conversation, and I'm not basing this on my first impression of you. I'm basing it on everything you said and your admission that, yeah, you just don't like gay sex because God said so. And it's okay to admit that. I'm glad you did.
Yeah, no, I do, but I do want to maintain that I'd still believe the same even if I wasn't religious. Because even when I went,
like, I don't care to have that discussion, to be honest.
Sexuality was wrong.
I do not care to have that discussion at that point, to be honest, because I think this one was informative enough.
What's informative enough?
I mean, what we talked about already, I think that was informative enough for me that I won't engage with your point of saying, even if I wasn't a Muslim, I would not like gay sex. I mean, sure, whatever. I'm not engaging with that.
Yeah, because you can't disprove it.
No, I don't need to disprove anything. Like, you're making a claim about how you would have behaved if you believed differently. All I can say is, like,
saying that I only believe this because I'm just going off what God says, which is true.
You literally said that. You said that. I'm not making.
True. That's what I'm saying. It's true, but I'm saying it's not as black and white as that, because I would believe it even if I wasn't Muslim.
And I don't care to have a discussion about that, is what I'm saying. Not because I can't prove you're wrong. I literally do not care to have that discussion.
It doesn't make me homophobic because I disagree with something.
Yeah, sure. I mean,
is homosexuality, is it genetic?
What? Is it genetic?
Is it genetic?
I don't know if the research is out on that or not. I think there is a genetic component to it.
I'll tell you, it's not genetic. There's literally no scientific research that shows that it's genetic or biological.
Man, why are we having this discussion when we already had the conclusion? You believe it because God said so. Everything else does not matter. Like, no amount of discussion about this will change your mind or change how much you believe in it. So this is all moot. This is all pointless.
There is no scientific studies that show that a man can biologically love a man.
It's like it's like talking to a wall. Is there anything else that you would like to talk about before we go?
No, to be honest, no, not really, no. Is there anything you'd like to ask me?
No, I think that's all.
Okay, thank you very much. I hope we speak soon.
Yeah, take care.
Take care, bud.
All right. Yeah, thank you for sticking with us through this conversation. I know it's been a while now, but I wanted to see it to the end, and I don't want to talk about the conversation too much, except that I want to reiterate what I was trying to say. What's important to me is why people believe what they believe, whether or not it stems from religion. And I wanted to demonstrate how, by talking about the reasons people believe, we could get them to reflect on those reasons. And if we can demonstrate, or if they volunteer to say, that they actually believe for a totally, completely different reason, one could see this entire conversation as disingenuous and unproductive, because we should have led with, I think gay sex is bad because God said so. And also there's secondary reasons that don't affect at all my belief. But I think it was productive anyway, because whether or not we led with that, it was a good conversation to hear all of that happen. And my point about that is, if there's a reason why you believe something, and that reason is disproven or contextualized in a way that makes it seem not valid, and your belief isn't affected one bit, then that reason didn't actually factor into your belief, is what I was trying to say. And I think this is a method of discussion that I see practiced very often, unfortunately, in Dawah circles, not necessarily just about gay relationships, but just any topic in general. There's 10 very bad reasons, or 10 proofs, or whatever, and you start dissecting them one by one, and they jump from the person you're discussing with jumps from the reason to a different one and says, well, you haven't disproved the premise, you haven't disproved the conclusion. That's not what I was trying to do. I was trying to engage with them one at a time. And if they're all interlaced in a way that none of them actually prove Islam, or none of them actually prove that gay sex is bad or whatever, but each of them is kind of like you can kind of argue back and forth on it, that doesn't mean that they all add up to 100% good reason. That's what I was trying to demonstrate here. Yeah, and anyway, thank you everyone for the super chats. I'll get to the next caller. I think one last caller that we have. Yeah, okay. I hope you're ready, Emmy, because I'm adding you to the live stream now. Hey, can you hear me? You are muted at the moment.
I can hear you.
Yes, hi. Welcome to the live stream. Tell me a little bit about yourself and why you're calling today.
Good evening. My name is Stephen. Actually, I'm a revert, and I'm always interested in reasons or logical reasons why people leave Islam, and I think my research on ex-Muslim, why I left Islam, mostly they don't actually seem logical to me. I think I came on your page, so I think I saw one of your videos which I was like, okay, this actually do make sense or stuff like that. Then I think I reconciled with it on my own part. So then I continued looking into your page, and I was like, okay, fine. It's nice to actually have a conversation with you based on your approach towards Islam. You know, there's some that leave Islam and all they have to do is just bad mouthing it and stuff like that. Because basically, it's not as if I was born into it. I have my own journey actually, so I don't need to bore you with that. But I have my own journey to make the conclusion that okay, fine, I want to pick up this religion. So, but after picking it up, I just didn't stay like that. I kept on questioning because that's what made me leave my former belief. Yeah, so questioning it and looking at people's reasons or stuff like that. And
sorry, to clarify, you were a former believer in what, and now you're a Muslim, right?
Yeah, initially I was born into a Christian family, and I think I left it. I will call myself. I spent a little phase into atheism, but I think I didn't last there based on the way my culture is, because we have this religious spiritual lifestyle we have here, so it doesn't make sense to me to believe that everything's physical. So I believe that there's also other stuff. So I think I went into deism, whereby I believe that God is not in control of anything, and it continued my search to different faiths till I end up becoming a Muslim.
Okay. So sorry, I didn't get all of that. There's a little bit of a mic problem. So you're saying that you grew up a Christian, but then you stopped believing in Christianity and you joined Islam?
Okay, I wouldn't say I was a Christian. Let's just say norms. You were giving birth in a Christian family. You follow the tradition. It's not as if I was into it, because I question things a lot right from when I know I can think. So I was not really like that. So when I saw things that didn't logically make sense to me, I just left it and I went to atheism. And that doesn't make sense to me. Then because of my my background, we deal more with spiritual lifestyle, and I've seen a lot, which I conclude that there has to be something else beyond this material world. So I think I went to deism, to believing that God is not in control of the world. Then I continued in my search. I think Islam just choose to answer those questions that I had and everything that makes sense to me. So after being a Muslim, then I always make sure that I try to question it also. So in my searching for why Muslims or why I left Islam, I meant your page. And I think you're the only one that actually stand up logically to make sense to me of why he or she left Islam. So I think that's why I'm on your page.
No, I appreciate you sharing that. So to reiterate, you grew up Christian. There were some things that didn't make sense to you, so you left, and then you joined Islam because Islam answered your questions about spirituality. And then,
Sorry, King. No, you finish up. Sorry.
Sorry. No, go ahead then. If I was incorrect about that part, go ahead.
Okay. It's not basically just on the spiritual aspect. I'm not someone that I'm actually spiritual. Like my culture actually does a lot with spiritual stuff. So it's not how I call it. It's like an evidence for me to know that there's something beyond this material life. Like I know there's something beyond it because that's my culture. That's why I'm involved into it. So the question of why this both on material, spiritual and stuff, Islam actually like answers that. So but even though after being a Muslim, I continue questioning things, and I think I've been satisfied since all this while.
Okay. You continue questioning things even as a Muslim.
Yeah.
Do you find that, would you rather keep questioning things or would you rather stop questioning things? Which one would you prefer?
I think Islam opens the door for questioning. For me, I'm not someone that I take people as God. So your opinion, so far, if your opinion makes sense to me, I take it. If it doesn't, I drop it. So the Quran on its own is something that I take personally to heart. Like whenever I read it, it just makes sense to me and answers my question. So I think it gives me the ability to ask questions, think, ponder on things and stuff like that. So like you'll keep on asking questions. I'm not dogmatic to that extent.
Okay. So in the way that you view Islam, it encourages you to question and you will keep questioning. In your questioning or coming across people questioning, have you come across anything that changed your faith?
Sorry, okay. I think let me try to remember one. That was when I entered into Islam. I think it was me trying to fit in everything to science. Then getting to know that the Quran is just a book of science. Not like I have to make sure that everything has to go so totally with science. So I think that was one thing that questioned it before. But when I was able to reconcile with that, like okay, this is just a book of science. It's not necessarily a book of science. I don't need to keep because I love science a lot, so I don't need to start pushing in science into the Quran. It's just a book of science. So I took it for what it is, and that's it.
Okay, so science in the Quran, it was something they had questions about, and now you concluded that the Quran is not a book of science, so you're not trying to see the science in the Quran anymore.
No, I'm not trying to force science on it. Like it has to be a book of science. Simple example is when it talks about the fingertip and stuff. It's something just a sign, just like fingertip and stuff. But me trying to say, okay, fingerprint because of DNA and this, and trying to push it into the Quran and stuff like that. I think it's something I was trying to do before, which does not make sense actually. It's just a book of science. So I can see a verse and I will be like, wow, this actually talks about this and that, but I don't need to start pushing in more science into. I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to get about.
I think I do. So how do you know the difference between you pushing science into the Quran and science being in the Quran? Or do you no longer see any science in the Quran?
No, the one evident one was I think sorry that I invited not a few years just last year or so. So I'm not that versed in stating
That's
chapter
okay.
or stuff.
I don't expect you to have specific examples. If you don't remember that, that's
Okay.
fine. I'm just
No,
curious if
like
yeah.
stating verse and chapter, all this. No, the way scholars do. So I'm not, I'm not that. So one that speaks a lot to me was, I think, Surah, the resurrection. God was speaking and says that they think that they won't be able to resemble their bones, even to their fingertip. And the mention of the fingertip, they actually like speak volume to me to
Sorry,
see
can you repeat
how.
that? Can you repeat that a bit slower? I think that there's something with the microphone. It's hard to hear. What is that
Okay.
example?
I said when God said, do they think it won't be able to resemble their bones even to their fingertip?
Oh, the bones even to their fingertips. Do they think they will
Yeah.
that I will not be able to reassemble the bone to their fingertip?
Yeah. And for me there, I thought deep into it, and I feel like I could have mentioned any other stuff, but why the fingertip? It's very unique to we human beings nowadays, whereby just anywhere we go, I think our finger scan can just leave our identity and stuff like that. So I feel like it's just more of a book of science too. It's not as if it's a book of science. So that's my consultation with it.
Right.
And there are many stuff like that also. So it's not like, I don't even understand it. It's not like I'm trying to now forcing science into it. I'm just like, okay, this is a sign. This is a sign also. Okay, this is a sign. That's it.
Well, how can you tell that something is a sign, and how can you tell when something is just a meaningless coincidence, or not even a coincidence, but just something, not a sign?
Okay, it depends on. I think the Quran speaks volume to different people interpretation. It was one that I think I read recently, and it talks about how reverse development, whereby we all grow from childhood and we grow old and we forget things and we die, stuff like that. And it was just more of God reminding us that everyone goes through a process. Those that, like, I don't want to bore you with my two, but it's talk about, yeah, sorry for my language, but it talks about things, signs for you to actually believe in God, signs for you to actually see why you should believe in a God, and why you should be like, why is body of worship. So I think that's a sign. That's why I took the science part out of it. It's not like I took it totally, but I'm not making sure that, okay, every scientific method I have to push it into the Quran. Just a sign. It might be a simple thing like the rain fall from the sky, and be as simple. It's just a normal common man. I don't need to be a scientist before I can believe in God. I don't need to be an astrologer, or I have to be a doctor. Like, even a farmer can just take the Quran, read and resonate with it, and I think that's what the Quran is for. It's not for a specific kind of people. It's for everybody.
Well, let me ask you this then. Do you have any questions for me or other ex-Muslims that you would like answered?
Okay. Sorry to this might be outside the what is it called? Outside our discussion. We can go back to, but I just want to mention or something. I was watching one of your videos, and I jumped on the one you did a reaction video to Hamza Yusuf. I don't know if you remember.
Hamza Yusuf? Yeah, possibly. Yeah.
Yeah. Though I might be wrong because I didn't finish it up. I think I watched maybe 15 minutes or 20 minutes, and I saw something which I don't know. Maybe it was intentional. Him and Jordan Peterson, and they were having a conversation. And I think Jordan asked him why he chose Islam, and for me, I felt like it was more of saying his own personal experience, not like he was trying to like convince anyone of why Islam is it. Just like someone asking me now, why did I choose Islam? My experience is different. Why did this person choose Islam? Is But I felt like you were pushing it on him, trying to like push his belief on that, like this is why Islam. I feel like he was just um invited to talk on his own experience, which I feel like was somehow for me, because I actually respected your views while watching your video, but that video actually made me feel somehow like, I don't know if it was intentional or maybe.
Can you remind me of who I was talking to?
You were reacting on the video, Jordan Peterson and Hamza Yusuf, their video.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the one. was it Hamza Yusuf and Jordan Peterson talking about why I choose Islam.
Yeah.
So I haven't watched that one. That was a year ago. Hopefully I don't know if I'll have time to watch it. Maybe I should. Maybe perhaps I spoke in a way that was unfair. I'll have to actually see it and assess. But I can tell you that the way that I speak to a caller, for example, and the way that I let them express why they believe is very different than the way that I would dissect a video by Hamza Yusuf, someone who's representing Islam and inviting people to Islam. Because then it's not just about his personal belief. He's advertising this as, I mean, I can't remember the context of the video, but I treat him as if he's talking as a representative of the religion. So I get to be more critical, and I get to say, well, that's not a good reason to invite people to the religion. Or you're someone who's aware, as a da'wah person, as a scholar, he's aware of a lot of the things that contradict what he just said. So I would be more critical with him that way. But on a personal level, I don't hold people to that standard, because they're sharing their belief, like someone like you calling in. They're just telling me why they believe. They're not out there making money off of being a representative of Islam, telling people why they should believe, and representing it as if, like he's talking to Jordan Peterson, representing it as if these are good reasons to choose Islam. So I treat those a bit differently than the personal discussion.
I understand you from that. Maybe our perspective was just different, because Hamza Yusuf was someone that I think I watched, and for what I saw in the video was just him just saying his experience. It's not like it was, from my own perspective, I might be wrong, but it's just him telling us his experience of his near-death experience of why he chose it, and it's not like he's trying to pinpoint. That was my view. Maybe if I have watched everything, I could have concluded on the ball. That was just my take on that. So I think we go on that point.
I mean, you could be right. I want to review it again and see if I was being a bit too harsh or not viewing it as his personal testimony and his personal belief. Maybe I should have made more of a disclaimer about that, or clarified that I don't criticize him for having that belief, but for talking about the reasoning as if it's a good reason for people to have that belief too, not just him.
I understand your point. I understand where you're coming from. Just thank you for clarifying that. I understand your take on it. I thought it was more of like you are trying to push something, but I understand where you're coming from now. I understand that.
But I appreciate the feedback, and I'll keep that in mind if I'm talking about a da'wah person or a sheikh's belief. I still need to treat it as if, or understand that it's also their personal belief, so I should afford them some degree of freedom of expression there too.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate it. So, okay. I don't know. I'm surely you know a lot about Islam more than me. I said to that, but before our discussion goes on, I want to try to like just label my own kind of Muslim. I don't know if you will see that as me being a Muslim or not. I take the Quran as the criterion, like the authoritative superior over all books, but I don't take the hadith like superior to me. Anything that does not make sense to me in the hadith, I disband it, and if it makes sense, I take it. If somehow skip your stuff like that, I just let it go. Because I came from different religious belief, and I see the hadith like just other religious scriptures that has a lot of illogical things. I'm someone that I ask questions. Like I have to make sure it makes sense to me if I believe in it. So that's my own kind of Muslim. So in case you might want to, because I feel like people throw in hadith here and there and stuff. So if you throw in an hadith that doesn't make sense to me, I clarify it straight away and say it does not make sense. I don't defend hadith so much, but the Quran is something that I just take up to my own. Like this is it. This is the Quran, and this is it. This is the word for my Creator. That's how I take it. So
yeah, I mean, it's not up to me to tell you whether that makes you or whether I consider you a Muslim or not. How selective you are with the Quran. When I was a Muslim, I felt like I didn't have that freedom to be selective with the Quran, and I don't think Islam affords you that, but if you somehow find a way to believe that while also being selective with the Quran, then I can't tell you to do otherwise.
No, I mean, I take everything in the Quran, but aside the Quran, the Hadith and stuff, I don't put it in that high regard. The Quran is for my creator. I've accepted that from God generally. But others like the Hadith, the Bible, the Torah, I believe they have manning ideology in it, which does not naturally make sense in logic in some aspect and some might some truth in it. So I'm trying to tell you that the Quran is what I personally as a Muslim should be fully be judged on, but not the Hadith. I don't know if that clarifies my stand.
Okay. Oh yeah.
So okay. I've been saying a lot, so I don't know if you have something for me.
Yeah, nothing specific comes to mind. I was going to ask you if is there something else that you'd like to add or ask before we wrap up the call?
Okay, yeah, I jumped on your reason why you left Islam. I don't know if what I reconciled with actually makes sense for us to like maybe discuss it, because I feel like you might have some other thing for me to go home and think about to say, okay, if that does not actually make sense. One point I don't know if it was 1 or 2, I can able to pick out of why he left Islam. First one is predestination and free will, and I think the second one is believe. Yeah, like those that does not accept Islam, or if there is no one that knows Islam is the truth and leave it. I don't know if I'm able to get those two reasons well.
I mean, predestination and free will and their incompatibility, as well as someone who doesn't believe in Islam being punished for it. Is that what you're saying? My reasons for leaving the faith. I think. I mean, I've highlighted the first one a lot, and also me realizing that people being a believer or not does not should not qualify them for avoiding hell just because they believe, or even if they do good deeds, that shouldn't play a part at all. Like someone being judged for not believing a certain narrative, it should not factor into whether or not someone will be tortured forever. And it's just realizing that model is incompatible with the claim that God is fair and just and all of these things. So I realized that it cannot be true. So that's just one way, one of the things that got me realizing that I don't believe in this. It doesn't make sense.
So what if we both can reconcile that it actually being just? Is there okay?
Like
so
I don't see it as just that someone would be tortured for not believing that Islam is true. Because it's just like, because especially that the reasons that people use for belief, including the Quran itself, the reasons, the evidence, the logic, all of that kind of stuff, it's the same that I hear from other religions. So someone can follow the same methodology and be a believer of another religion and go to hell for it. It doesn't make any sense that someone will be rewarded or punished based on whether or not they believe that Islam is the truth.
Okay. So can I come with my own perspective on that?
Sure.
Okay. The way I understood, I don't know if our perspective based on when you're a Muslim was different. So you can correct me on that. Is believing in God and not believing in God. Like, there's unbeliever and there's believer. There are those that do good deeds and there are those that does not do good deeds. I believe the punishment are for those that how I call it, negate the the acknowledgement of God. Like that aspect. It's just like, okay, you exist and maybe you are there giving me two rewards, either a lollipop or a biscuit. And if sorry, let me use it in this way. The way I see it, this is God. He has created us for a purpose, and there is two ways, two places to go to. I don't believe we have free choices too. I believe we just have the will to choose. I don't think the Quran gave that aspect of free will, but we have a lot of things to choose from. So there's two choices. Is when you believe in your creator, because I believe there's a lot of reasons why we should thankful to who creators. So it's for those that actually know, or the evidence has been displayed to them, or the sign has been displayed to them that there is a creator, and they still don't want to submit. I feel those are those that are under that category of disbelievers. I don't know if you understand it. It's not
So
basically
I
just
think I
okay.
understand what you're saying, which is the disbelievers who deserve hell are the ones who saw the evidence and denied it anyway. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't think that's how it works. Like that's the problem. I feel like that's a scapegoat for the definition of a disbeliever to make the Quran seem less dogmatic about it, or less black and white about it. When I mean, most people, if not all people who don't believe, like that's not really a category of disbeliever that we actually see. And if God was just focusing his entire attention on talking about hell for disbelievers, and it's actually a tiny amount of people, and most disbelievers don't disbelieve that way, then it seems like a waste of time. I don't think there exists people who see the truth about Islam and see the evidence and then just don't believe anyway. Like that's just not a
I'm
real thing.
sorry to cut you. I hate cutting people in. Sorry.
It's
I'm
okay.
not referring to Islam. I'm referring to God as the creator, or whatever something, or the God. I don't know whatever name you want to use to describe what brought us into existence. I don't know. But I'm talking like there are signs for us to actually logically, rationally conclude that there's an outer force here that brought us into existence, created us into pairs, gave us a purpose, designed us to die and this and that. Like the evidence are all around
I mean, there
for
are a
us to
lot of
see.
people who disagree with these evidence for designers. Like, none of that is definitive. There's a lot of these hypotheses and theories, and even reasonable, good, well meaning people can disagree about that. So it doesn't really lead to any conclusion about God or religion.
Yeah, no, I'm not talking. That's why I want us to negate the religion force out of it. Like, okay, is it that something or nothing? I don't know if you understand. Is that something or nothing? Is it that you believe that it's something, or you believe that it's from nothing? So
But
is
the religion is about much more than that. I mean,
yeah, the religion is the way you get to that something. I understand you. It's the way to get the what I'm talking about, because what the Quran negates is when it talks about the believers, it includes the Christians, the Jews, the what's it called, the Sabans and stuff. It says these people, if they take Allah as one, and they will receive that what's it called, that reward from their God. So it's more of these are people that believe in, okay, this is God, and that polytheism that believes that, okay, God has association and partners and this and that. And it gives the reason why they should believe that God is one. And it's believers, those that saw that it's not like a concrete like this is God, I've seen God. No, like these are conclusions to believe that things came from something. Is it many something, or is it just one? Then if your conclusion is many, you can be polytheism to that aspect. If you believe that this is the universe, and it actually came from something, and there's something controlling this and stuff, okay, was then the religion is not the aspect for you to get towards that stuff. Then you can investigate and see which one
there are
gives
no definitive answers about any of this. Not even like all this so-called evidence. Like, these are all just hypotheses about, is there something? Can something come out of nothing? Like, all of these can also be non sequiturs about this whole discussion. I think that it's easy to say that it's obvious if you just follow the logic, then it'll all make sense, either polytheism or monotheism. I don't think it's that clear. I think even reasonable philosophers disagree about whether or not the world started somewhere or it never started, always was. It's just it's not as clear or definitive as many believers like to, or assume that it is.
I think I understand you. I know we both have different experience. Like I told you from onset, I'm not trying to bring you to anything, but I told you from onset, from where I come from, there's a lot of spiritual stuff that goes on around there. And to be stupid enough for people that come from my world to believe that this is just material, because we have, I don't know if this would be sensible. We have something like we call money ritual, whereby the spirit world is being controlled and stuff like that. That's where I come from. So I know there is a bigger energy, and I know there is something metaphysical outside there that controls this physical world. So I can't convince you on that, because maybe if you're brought into this, you might not conclude that okay, this religion is the perfect one for you, but there is no way you'll be brought in here and you will believe that okay, this is just what it is. You all believe in this where we I believe there is this spirit, the soul. Not even just believe, we've seen it occur, we've seen people using other people's soul and stuff like that. Yeah, is I'm okay. I'm an Africa to be precise, and it goes a lot. So that's why I said the phase of me being an atheist was not long enough. It was not even long. It was something like a comfort. So why I believe in Islam is I concluded that there is a metaphysical stuff outside there that controls the world, how to get it, and Islam was the one that answered those questions. So we can disagree on that, but I'm just want to clear that point that there was evidence enough for me to know okay, there has to be a God. They have to be.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that. Yeah, I don't think I have much to say about that.
Okay. So is it only that okay? I heard the free will and stuff. I don't know if I should share my own aspect of it to see if I'm not going back and forth to see if there's the flaw in my presentation there or stuff, because I was once kind of like, yeah, how does this happen? Then I think I read a surah and I understood what predestination and the free will stuff came into place, and I don't know if that will be an answer to your question about that.
I mean, we have to wrap up soon, but if you think you have an answer to predestination and free will coexisting, sure. But like I said, it has to be the last thing we talk about.
Okay, no problem. So from what I concluded from the Quran is everything predestined, predestined happens, but not everything that happens is predestined. Example is me praying today or not me praying tomorrow. It's my choice. It's not either it's been predestined whether I'll pray or not. So, but if it was predestined that either I will go outside and see someone or I'll meet you today, no matter what happens, I will meet you. So, in just a simple sense, everything predestined happens, but not everything that happens is predestined. So that's my conclusion based on the Quran. That's why I was able to write from it.
I think that there's a lot of hadiths that explicitly say nothing happens without God's permission. Nothing happens that's not according to God's plan. So it's not just that things that are predestined will happen, but some things happen without being predestined. I don't think that part is true, at least the way that I understood Islam.
And maybe I may have not got through that hadith, but saying nothing happens without God's will does not negate the destiny, in the sense that He allows it does not mean maybe it was predestined. He just allows it. If He wanted it not to happen, He won't have. I think it's been demonstrated in the story of the cave, Moses and the knowledgeable man. That story that shows what predestined and free will was all about. It talks about the man killing the child for.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that story. I don't see how it actually, I used that. I made a video about that to talk about how that undermines the whole idea of free will. Like, that child had no free will. They knew what his life was going to turn out to be because God knew it was going to be that way. God decided it to be that way. So yeah, I don't see how that supports free will in any way.
Yeah, the previous story before that actually negate that. I think what the wisdom God was showing that verse was the first one was about the is it a king coming in to destroy those that were on ships, and the man broke made an hole in the ship and stuff. And you might ask, like, okay, since God knows this man is wicked, why doesn't He kill the man before it happens? Then the story follows up to a kid that we all know that is going to do something bad in the future. So if we can feel like, okay, God should have done something to the king since he's old enough, then why not the kid?
No,
So
I
he's
wasn't
trying
saying
to.
that why didn't God kill the king? God should interfere and kill. I'm saying if God is already interfering, it seems like an oddly inconsistent way of addressing things where he would kill a child before he's even committed any crimes, but he would let a criminal continue to do crimes and save a person from like one instance of the crime. That's what I was objecting to.
Oh, I understand it. What I'm trying to show you is God. The man was the one who did it. He even prayed to God to give the parent on that child. So he did it on his own way, but God gave him knowledge from them, like knowledge for seeing the future. So what God is trying to show is he let things happen. But if men were God, they would have done what you're thinking, like, okay, since God knows that, okay, this kid is going to do this and that, why don't he leave him? Maybe he will change him or stuff like that. So he let things happen. Hitler, other bad people that has been on this side, he allows them to let you show that this is what they will do. But I don't think knowing it negates them doing it. It's just the way God knowledge is incomparable. We can't actually comprehend the knowledge. So I don't know if that we can't bring God, because I think Surai class talks about his nothing's compared to him. Even his knowledge is beyond. We can't compress it into our own limited way. So it's just displaying a bit of what God knowledge is in that surah. That's what I understood about this chapter. So the way I interpret the Quran, I don't know if maybe different from others or stuff like that, but I've not yet seen something logical enough to take me away from Islam, and I'm trying to look for it to see what will just take me away. Because anywhere I see something that is so illogical about it, I'm ready to leave it straight up. So that I kept on searching on Exmuslim last time. I came across to you, and I've reconciled that, and it makes sense to me. So I'm not that's just it too.
Yeah, and I appreciate you having this conversation with me and calling in. And yeah, I hope we get to talk again sometime.
No problem. So sorry. So for next time, when do you have this kind of online stuff?
I have them every Wednesday approximately. So the topic changes every week. Some weeks I speak to believers, some weeks everybody, some weeks ex-believers. So I post about it on Tuesday, but they happen on Wednesday.
No problem. When I see one that talks about believers, I think I'll be able to come across. I love the conversation there.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you joining this time. And yeah, I hope you have a great rest of your day.
You too. Thanks so much.
Take care. Bye-bye. All right. Thanks again to the caller. And I want to remind you before you go, that tomorrow, similar time to the start time of this live stream, I'm having a live stream with Drew from Genetically Modified Skeptic. So if you would like to join, just be there on time. We're not taking calls, but you can participate in the live chat. You can ask us questions. You can participate in the conversation. So I look forward to having you there. It's going to be fun, and it's pretty unstructured. So if you'd like to suggest things that we talk about, that will be very helpful as well. So yeah, I appreciate everyone for being here and for watching the entire live stream. Thank you as always. And I would like to remind everybody to, what was it that I wanted to remind you of? Well, first of all, I wanted to thank all the patrons and YouTube members and people who donate and have done so during the live stream as well. Give the live stream a like and a comment after it's over. And also I wanted to remind everyone that if you become a patron or YouTube member, you can become a member of the Discord server. And there's a lot of advantages to that. My pitch in these 10 seconds is not going to be good enough to explain to you how fun it is to be a member of the Discord server. So if you would like to be one, just become a patron or YouTube member and link your Discord account to your platform, and then you can join. And we have all sorts of group activities and group discussions, and we have hangouts that are not live streamed. So if you'd like to be part of that, I urge you to join. And as always, think critically.